Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geeks and the Noobs podcast. So happy to be back. Sorry for the slight delay, minor technical difficulties, but we got it all under control. I am joined by a good friend of mine and one of the best people in the world, and I say that with no hyperbole. Comic Punk Guy. How are you doing, CPG? It's been a long time.
It has been. I've been pretty good. I've dipped my toe back into the TikTok world to help out our good friend over at the Panda Wrestling Company to get a little hype around All Out. I'm taking him and WrestleMania with me to All Out in a suite. So we're looking really looking forward to that. And other than that, just work, life, tons of shows. Just got my tickets to go see Ghost 2 times in 1 week in September for me and Miss CPG's birthdays because
Nice.
we were born a year and 1 day apart. So it's going to
Wow,
be a action-packed week. Yeah.
that is cool. I
Hmm.
noticed that my all out invitation got lost in the mail, but that's okay. It happens. The postal service sucks. It's all good. No, it's seriously, it's all good. I'm in Florida. I got a long way to go to get to there. Um, Seriously though, like anybody who's not following him, like he did walk away from TikTok for a while. Understandably, it is a cesspool of toxicity. There, it's hard to stay sane. But you know, he had one of the best channels, just one of the best people. Got to meet him at the Royal Rumble back in St. Louis, and that was just an incredible time. Him, McGruber, Love Panda, Infamous. It was just a good time. And we both love wrestling and we both love comics, and so it always works out well to have great conversations. And even one of the greatest things is even if we don't agree, it's never toxic. That's what's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Never a
It's
terrible thing.
yeah. It's like I left the toxicity of TikTok for the toxicity of Twitter, and it's like it's dialed to a million kind of there, even compared to TikTok. TikTok's easier to put a face to a name than Twitter is, but there's a lot of people out there that think that they're told they can't like things when the only people telling them they can't like things is themselves. So it's nuts.
Yeah, Twitter is awful because again, most people, don't even have their own picture on their avatar and they can hide behind their keyboard, so it's much more toxic. And at least on TikTok, you have to at least have the balls to show your face most times. Although most of TikTok nowadays is just clips of movies with somebody underneath going, so
Yeah.
it's gotten pretty ridiculous, but it is still the fastest growing social media, so I stick it out because it's one of the best ways to advertise right now. So
Oh yeah.
I don't do much. I'm not on it that often anymore because it is oh, it is rough. It
Yep.
is rough. Speaking of rough, we're gonna start off with the latest news. Uh, Warner Brothers has kind of come out with a plan in regards to the upcoming or maybe not upcoming Flash movie. Um, the Flash movie has been looked at for since 2014. It's been something that they've been wanting to do. They finally filmed it. They were bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman. Ben Affleck was getting a send off as his version of Batman. There was this whole off of one of the greatest Flash story and one of the just greatest comic book story arcs of all time. The Flashpoint paradox is what they were kind of building off of. Although weird to make your first Flash movie that, but it was also meant to, after the turmoil of what happened with Zack Snyder and the Justice League and all that mess, they were going to use it as a kind of reboot, a kind of like a start over. And so then the Flashpoint story made sense. They were going to introduce Supergirl, the whole nine. It was going to be great. However, their star, Ezra Miller, has turned out to be quite a crazy.
An enigma
Uh,
is probably
yeah,
what he
and
thinks.
D Nikki J says eat more Wheaties or get a hobby or fill in the blank. Yeah, that works for Twitter, that works for TikTok, and that works for Ezra Miller right now. That man has lost his I don't want to not use the right pronouns. He is they them, so I'll say they them. They have lost their mind. And there have been abuse allegations, assault allegations, assaults caught on camera, and then
Grooming.
it just escalated and escalated. Then there was a protection order for a mother and her young daughter because he was grooming her since she was 12. Turns out she was not the only one. All these different things. Oh, by the way, I want to point out, please let me get all the social stuff out of the way real quick. If you're watching this on Twitch, please hit that heart button and follow us. If you can, please subscribe. That helps out the channel greatly. You can also use your Amazon Prime subscription to make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it. That's always an option. We're on YouTube. If you're watching us there, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And we just started streaming on Trovo, Trovo, Trovo.live. It's a new streaming service very similar to Twitch. So if you see the dancing dinosaur up on my screen and not the dancing penguin, that is from Trovo. So thank you for everybody over there. Now on Trovo, you can subscribe for as little as $1.99. And again, all this helps the channel out greatly. D. Nicky says, just listen to your PR person. I think Ezra Miller's PR person has had an aneurysm and just fell into a coma somewhere because there's no way he has representation at this point, right?
Ezra Miller's PR person has to be either what the woman who plays Ashley on The Boys is emulating, or very close to it by now. With all the things that have been alleged and all the things that have been said, and the arrest earlier yesterday or the day before, I believe, that happened.
Yeah,
she's got it, or that they have to be ran ragged, working for someone like them.
I can't imagine his team is still even attached. They have to have just quit by now, right? Like, there's no way he has a team left. He's not. I don't think he. I know. I don't know for a fact, but I'm 99% certain I saw that his management firm at least fired him.
Yes.
His agent is they fired him. He can't have a PR person at this point. The man has like a cult commune in Vermont. New charges have been on trafficking have been brought up. So DC, and more specifically Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers' new parent company Discovery, have laid out their plan now. They have 3 options. And this is what they have come out and officially said. So either A, Ezra Miller goes out and does a major tell-all interview as to why all of this happened, apologizes profusely, and pays for his crimes, does very limited press for the movie goes ahead as planned. Option 2, he does no press, the movie goes ahead as planned, he's never cast in anything Warner Brothers does ever again. Which Warner Brothers, before the Discovery acquisition, had already said, we wash our hands of Ezra Miller, they will never play in any movie we ever do ever again. But with Discovery coming back on, apparently that door was opened back up, because they're now having to say that that's one of the options. So apparently the Discovery people, but then again, the guy running Discovery, David Selnick or whatever his name is, he's like Ike Perlmutter 2.0. So not a good person regardless.
Oof.
But option 3, and this is probably at this point the most likely option, they're going to scrap the $200 million plan. Just some dude from Michigan, thank you so much for the follow. You got a dancing penguin. He's one of our friends over from the Discord on the Panda Wrestling Company. The plan option 3, which I know a lot of people on TikTok are like, well, we want to see option 2 because we want the movie to come out. But I think at this point, with everything going on and more allegations coming out daily, that option 3 is the likely option of just scrapping the movie entirely, taking it as a tax write-off, and that movie never sees the light of day ever.
It'll find its way out. I think with the same thing with Batgirl. I think Batgirl will eventually find its way out.
Well, actually, on that note, I was talking to somebody. If they do it as a tax write-off, it legally can never see the light of day. Now, it could be leaked, but it can never legally see the light of day if they use it as a tax write-off.
Right. Yeah.
So now
I think it'll be leaked.
It'll be leaked. I'm sure of that. I'm sure somebody will leak it, especially after Kevin Feige even fought for them. Like, that's huge. But as far as this movie goes, that leak feels like it would be somebody from, like, that would be like hey, we're going to use this as a tax write-off. And then if somebody happens to let the film roll out the hallway, like, it'll be one of those, like, at the top.
Yeah.
And then they'll just play dumb the whole time. Future says, I'm sure their PR team has hit the eject button by now. Yeah, most likely. D Nicky says, yeah, we still have Iron Man, so hire his PR. Iron Man's PR was Iron Man. Iron Man, Pepper tried to be PR, but Iron Man just walked all over her. And then just some dude from Michigan mentions that DC has terrible luck with actors, and that's true. And I feel like part of my clue into the fact that the Flash movie might get scrapped is the fact that Ben Affleck has been brought back to the Aquaman 2 movie. He was supposed to be, for all intents and purposes, killed off in the Flash
Mm-hmm.
movie. And that was going to be his last appearance as Batman ever. And in fact, we saw in the trailer that was put out the bloody cowl and everything, and it was his cowl. So they had pretty much put it that he was going to be it. But now that he's showing back up in Aquaman 2, they've scrapped Batgirl and may scrap the Flash, which means all Michael Keaton appearances as Batman are scrapped. Maybe they take Ben Affleck back and say, hey, look, we're going to give you as much money as you want. They've made it very clear they want to make Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman the pillars again. So, hey, do you still want to make your Batman movie?
So there's a lot of things going on with all this. I think out of all the three options for Flashpoint, or for the Flash movie, we'll start there, is that the Ezra Miller tell-all press junket that will follow the release of the movie, 100%. If that happens, that will be the biggest shit show on the planet, because you're going to parade around someone who has, it's alleged at this point, but has crimes stacking, alleged crimes stacking up against them. And I think that they have to make it clear that he won't make any money off this movie if in the event that any of it is true, if they decide to release it.
Yeah.
The second option being he does no press and they put the movie out anyway, and he's not allowed anywhere near anything. He's not cast anything outside of just the Flash. There's he was heavily featured in those Harry Potter expanded movies.
Yep.
And I think, like, I didn't see any of those. Harry Potter ended with me when I finished the last book, and I've never seen any of the movies or anything like that. But I know that he's in them, and I think that, like, you put a pretty big stake in like two cash cow franchises that Discovery now gets to play with. So that's huge. If they have to 100% make it clear, if they release the movie, that he doesn't make any money off of it. He can't at this point, because it will look so bad.
Yeah.
You'll have what's his name? I'll think of it later. But you'll have a real bad scandal and or bad juju going around your movie if he gets convicted of this stuff later on, or something comes out after the movie's released and he's already made money off of it.
Yeah.
Scrapping it entirely for a tax write-off, I do think someone will leak it. And the reaction for people was going to go one of two ways. It'll either be this really very well done movie that it's almost a crime that they casted Ezra Miller in it and then couldn't put it out because of him, or it's bad and the Snyder cultists cultivate around to say, like, look, this is what happens when Zack Snyder doesn't make every single movie that features DC characters, and then they have trying to shoehorn him back in. I think the most likely thing is that they dismiss him and they put the movie out anyway, because I think the intrigue publicly is there for Keaton more than anything.
Yeah,
I think,
I agree.
as I personally thought that Ezra Miller was a miscast for Barry Allen from the very beginning. He looks like Chris Kattan from 90s SNL, playing Wally West, or playing Barry Allen, who acts like Wally West. And the tropes in the Justice League movie were so bad. I still have not seen the entire Joss Whedon version because it was so bad I walked out. I did watch the Snyder cut, which wasn't much better. I don't know why in the Snyder universe hot dogs are about this long, and grabbing them out of the air was a big thing. I just don't understand, like, the imagery for the Flash that they used was so, in retrospect, to like the first 3 seasons of the CW Flash, done so much better on a TV show with 1/16th of the budget.
Yeah.
And you throw all this movie or all this money to do these scenes, and I was like, this isn't the Flash. This isn't like what I've read. This isn't anything
Yeah.
really like resonating with me at all. And I think that they can use this as to wipe the slate clean. We know from like the leaked audio from their board meeting or whatever they had last 2 weeks that they're heading towards a reset.
Yes.
They don't want to flat out reboot. They want just a reset where the only surviving things that would come out of this reset are Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, Ben Affleck playing Batman, and if they can, Cavill playing Superman. If not, Gal Gadot is gone. Ezra Miller will most definitely be gone. The Green Lantern Corps show will either launch which Green Lantern we're getting in live action. It should be Jon Stewart. He's way past his due for a live action debut.
Agreed.
And you have to now recast Wonder Woman. You have to possibly recast Superman. And at the same time, you have to contend with where Shazam and Black Adam, which Shazam is a very underrated movie that a lot of people need to see because it's superhero big, and it's really well done. Like, I didn't see it when it came out in theaters. I wrote it off. I watched it on the day that HBO Max like debuted, and I was like, I cannot believe I didn't go see this.
Yeah.
And if Black Adam and Fury of the Gods are any indication of like that part of the DCEU or whatever's left of whatever the worlds of DC, whatever they're calling it, to be able to continue to expand, I'm all for that. Everyone involved in those projects is dynamite.
Yes.
It's a little more lighthearted than Zack Snyder stuff. I don't need like sadomasochist DC. If I wanted that, I could read Dark Victory. I could read anything that Mark or Frank Miller ever wrote about Batman. Or I don't need that being the alternative to Marvel because Marvel's already so different. So that they have a really good chance to wipe the slate clean of the things that they know don't work and try something different. And hopefully they get a guy from DC Comics to come in to do nothing but explain characters to a guy who knows how to make movies and let that guy use the other guy as a reference because they screwed up having Jeff Johns try to be their Kevin Feige.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I think a lot of those problems came from.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of comments here I want to talk about. First off, Future's comment about it'll be a bootleg booth at a Comic-Con right next to the Corman Fantastic Four and Evil Dead musical. Love that.
Yeah.
So just some dude asked, wait, is Edward Cullen out as Batman? No. Robert Pattinson is still Batman, but that will be a separate universe. Just like the Joker films, because for some reason they're making a sequel, even though that film doesn't need a sequel. They're making a sequel, and it's a musical with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. I don't want to get into that. Those will be separate. They now have a 10-year plan, just like Marvel, to make a core set of films that'll go together, but they're also going to make the other films separate. After the success of the Batman, there's no way they're going to not let Matt Reeves make his sequel. His character in that was pretty much done. They were killing him off. That's in regards to the Fantastic Beasts films with Ezra Miller's character there. I have not seen the third one. I saw the first one was great. The second one was and it just went way off. But don't forget, in those Fantastic Beasts films, they fired Johnny Depp over an allegation.
That's right.
And yet, Ezra Miller already had allegations at that time and was still allowed to keep his job. Totally agree that isn't Barry Allen. I'd rather have the kid from the TV show, Grant Gustin. I think Grant Gustin is fantastic as Barry Allen. The TV show Flash is ending now, which I found kind of ironic that they're ending that. He'll be free. Let him do it, because he is Barry Allen. D. Nicky says, definitely not Barry Allen. No. Ezra Miller was never Barry Allen. He wasn't Wally West. He was a shell of all of these characters. I heard Henry Cavill is going to the MCU. That is a rumor. I don't know how true it is. There's also the Suicide Squad, which James Gunn has gotten high praise for. The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. The second one with Idris Elba and John Cena. Peacemaker's getting it season 2, so that's great. D. Nicky said, love Shazam. And just some dude says Shazam was amazing. Yes, they both got. And then Future asked, wait, Gal Gadot is gone? What happened? And that I was actually going to ask you myself, because I hadn't heard that one. About her being out. But considering what she went through with Warner Brothers, it doesn't shock me.
Yeah, so her and Ray Fisher are kind of in the same boat. Both were very public with their Joss Whedon's not a good person to work with. And I don't think that either one of those people were exaggerating anything they went through with someone like that, especially with all the people who have come out post that exchange. With Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, from what I had read and what I've heard, is that because Wonder Woman 84 didn't perform as well and was overall
That
not.
movie was garbage.
Yeah, like it's pretty bad when your film's villain
Bad.
is like learning the liar Fletcher Reed like life, you know, lesson at the end. Like I was waiting for him to like hug his son and be like, I'm a bad father, and he says that because he can't lie. You know, like
Yeah.
it's so bad. And poor Pedro Pascal, like just trying to to do the best that he could with like the direction that they wanted to put Maxwell Lord
Such a
in.
waste of an actor and a character.
Yes.
Max Lord can be so much more, and Pedro Pascal is just phenomenal. And there were no consequences to him being a villain. He almost literally destroyed the world. Literally seconds away from the entire world falling apart, and he got to walk away.
Yeah.
D. Nicky says, the pin is blue! The goddamn pin is blue! Yeah. She also mentioned that she has a lot going on with her charities. Yeah, Gal Gadot has a lot going on with her charities. And she's, I think, getting a little more particular in the role she's taking. And I think the fact that she has issues with not just what happened with Josh Whedon, but also Hamada, the head of WB, who is sticking around, apparently, who I thought was being let go, but now it seems to be sticking around for a little bit longer. You're right. She might just not want to work with him anymore.
I think it's like between that and the reception of 84 wasn't great because like we said, the movie was pretty booty. It wasn't good. And it's going to end on a cliffhanger, which I think is just it kind of sucks the Linda Carter like cliffhanger they had for the third one.
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins getting the nod for the third one and being able, like, if she was able to make that movie with no restrictions, like it would have probably been better. Although I heard that a lot of the things that people were saying about like her 84 had a lot of studio intervention, but it was actually the other way around. It was like, no, I want this to be here for this context, and like Warner Brothers being like, no, you can't, like this isn't going to make any sense, and then she kept it. Your hero, who is for all intents and purposes indestructible and has superhuman durability, is defeated by wind, and it's a lot of like things that just weren't good. So I'm thinking that they're at a mutual parting of ways. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in the very first movie was fantastic. I thought they did everything right, and then you get like one of one of the best things about the first one is that you have a love interest character. You have Steve Trevor, right, and all their interactions are very genuine, and they do a very good job of like you have a very strong female lead who has a love interest, but she doesn't lean on the love interest. There isn't anything that's any like tropes, anything that's kind of disrespectful towards representation for women. And if there's any women in the chat or watching this and I get this wrong, I apologize. But the way that I saw it with my tiny male brain is that in the second one, they undid damn near all of that. Where as soon as Steve Trevor shows up out of time, she sleeps with him immediately, and I was like, you just regressed all of the progress.
And
of a
he's in
female
somebody
lead in
else's
any
body.
Movie. Yeah, in someone else's body.
She basically date raped some stranger.
Yeah.
Because nobody else sees Steve Trevor. Everybody else sees whoever the dude was.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, some dude who hit on her in a party.
Right.
And then of course the whole crux of the film is a wish stone. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So bad.
I really wish that those things weren't going in those directions.
Oh, so bad. Just some dude says I just read that Gal was replaced on Peacemaker by Kimberly Von Elberg. Yeah, she was the stand-in, and there was a stand-in for Superman, and supposedly it's because Gal wasn't available, but the fact that Momoa was, and unfortunately Ezra was, and they were able to come in and do their parts because it was all done green screen. They didn't have to come in; they just did them on a green screen. And that Gal couldn't come in kind of leads credence to what you're saying about her just being done with it. And I do believe that uh, Wonder Woman 3 is completely off the books as of right now. It was not on
no Batman
any.
in that scene either.
Yeah, it was on any list whatsoever. Um, so yeah, and of course, Henry keeps getting the jerk around from Warner Brothers as well. D. Nicky says it's love though, but then you would have sex with a cyborg if it had your partner's consciousness. Yes, I would have sex with a cyborg because it's not another person's body that has been taken over and that I'm raping because they're a cyborg absolutely because that's their consciousness. That is that person. In Wonder Woman 84, it was not his consciousness, it was a wish, and he took over that body, but only Wonder Woman could see him. Everybody else saw the other guy. In other words, the wish might have just been all in her head. And that whole thing.
Why are you putting me in this fighter jet that I'm a World War I prop pilot?
Yeah. And then she lassos lightning and swings around like Spider-Man on lightning. That was weird. The gold armor was completely wasted.
Yeah, I mean they kind of did the lightning thing in the first one in the typical Snyder ending to a DC movie where there's a fight on a giant open airfield.
Yeah.
like where everything is leveled out. But they're just things that didn't make sense. It almost kind of reminded me of when especially in the second one when Olivia Munn showed up as Psylocke and like her sword construct did like 100 different things other than what it should have done.
Yeah, no. D. Nicky says, "Don't worry, Marvel will make you feel better." And actually, we're gonna get to that on the main crux of this episode because what we do have to talk about after this is the I Am Groot series, which absolutely made me feel good. It was so much fun. But we'll get to that. New Future goes, "All right, the movie was bad enough. Did you have to make it worse?" I'm not making it worse. I'm stating facts. That movie it was so cringeworthy from start to finish, and I hate that Kristen Wiig was wasted because she is actually really good as Cheetah, and such a phenomenal actress. And there's a movie with her and Bill Hader, something twins, and it's actually not funny. Like it's a very emotional film, and their brother and sister.
Judd Apatow, isn't it? Another one of those?
I don't think he made that one, but it was like they were. Bill Hader's character was gay, and he was very emotional and depressed and suicidal, and they were brother and sister in it, and everybody's like, oh, it's funny, I'm gonna go see it, and they're like, oh no, I'm in my feels. It's such a great film, and you see the level that both Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig have with that film. And I've always loved everything Kristen Wiig does, and she is such a standout in that film that it doesn't belong. She stands out so much that she stands outside of the rest of the film. And that's a problem in and of itself. And you've seen other movies where it happens, where somebody is such a star and such an amazing actor or actress that they kind of break the entire immersion because they're so good and the rest of the film sucks around them.
A really unpopular opinion might be for that is Steve Carell and Bruce Almighty. Like his
right,
scenes killed. And when I walked out of the movie theater after seeing that, I was a teenager, but like walking out of that and looking at like the guy that played that other news anchor just doing all the stuff that Jim Carrey was doing, I was like, that guy stole the movie. And then, but the penance for that is that you get Evan Almighty, which is not great.
I enjoy Evan Almighty. It's a terrible film, but I enjoy it.
Anything where John Goodman's the villain isn't very good.
Yes,
except for
that's always good. Love John Goodman so much. Well, actually, you know what? He's a great example too because that 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I have never seen that.
It's not good, but he stands out. He's so good in it. Anchorman's another example, and that's where Steve Carell can kind of steal the show as well. But you also have Paul Rudd, you have Will Ferrell at his best. That's a great cast. And then I think Anchorman 2 is actually better, and that's a hot take. I like Anchorman 2 better, and I like Anchorman 2 better. But you have great people in those films.
Anchorman 2 had the default like Will Ferrell has run out of ideas, so he's moved to the coast and gone blind.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. By the way, everybody on Trovo, we are having such a great conversation. I apologize, I'm not thank you all so much for following. I appreciate it. You're all getting dancing dinosaurs over there on Trovo. So let's go. Oh, there's another one. Jenna Krablin, thank you so much. Dancing dinosaur for you. Yeah, no, I love Anchorman too. But you're right. It has a very just like Werewolf Harrison Ford. Wait, what is that? What? Thank you for another follow. What is Werewolf Harrison Ford?
There's a movie called like the werewolf or it's a silver something, and it's Will Harrison
Captain
Ford
America's ass.
is called is like a werewolf. I think I know what this person's talking about because I'm pretty sure it's something that my dad would put on when I was a
Future, you got
kid.
some. Oh, you know another movie that happens in, and they actually promote the movie around this actor. There was a terrible B movie called The Guyver based on the anime and the manga, and every poster has Mark Hamill in it, right? And they say Mark Hamill in The Guyver. He's only in the first 10 to 15 minutes before his character dies as a detective. He's
Oh,
barely in the
geez.
film, but they market the entire film around him. But
I mean,
he stands
that's
out.
kind of a stroke of genius, though.
Yeah, well, that's what all B movies do. If you happen to get a good actor, you have to get somebody. Like it's like how many movies like Bruce Willis, which I still feel so bad. He can no longer make movies. He can't even talk anymore. I feel so
Oh,
bad for him. I've always loved Bruce Willis, but the man made a billion movies. But there's a lot of them where he's on the cover of the DVD. You see it at the gas station, and then as you buy it for $1, you pop it in. He's in it for maybe 5 minutes.
hmm.
And he got paid more than anybody, probably the whole budget of the film. But like, yeah, they market the entire thing around. It happens all the time.
Have you ever
Oh,
seen
the
Cube?
Anchorman bat. That's right. Okay, the Anchorman Battle Royale. Harrison Ford is a news anchor who turns into a werewolf.
Oh, yes.
That's
Okay.
right. Yes. Kel, welcome, my man. You've made it back from Nashville. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Kel is my normal co-host. He had to go out to Nashville today, so he wasn't able to make it for the show. But we have the wonderful CPG standing in, and we're having a fantastic time. Kel McCopley says, "I love The Gaver." Yeah, that film is very, very, very gay, but in the best way. I remember I used to go to my godfather's house. I grew up with in a very LGBTQ open family. They were very loving. We went to an all gay church. My godfathers were gay, and we watched that movie all the time. It was one of those movies like, hey, what are we gonna do tonight? Let's watch a movie. Which one? The Guyver. It was always the first one to come up because it's so bad. It's got like everybody's in like there's all these monsters in like the really bad like foamy suits. Everything like nothing like it's terrible, but it's great. It's one of those like really good, awful B movies. Um, no, Kelly, you said stupid autocorrect. First of all, why is your autocorrect changing it to Gaver? What conversations are you having? Second, um, no, you're actually right. That movie is just very like homoerotic in a sense because it's just like there's a lot of comments made by the monsters. Just like, wait a minute, it's funny, it's hilarious. I
What's
recommend
going
it.
on
I recommend everybody watch it. Go find it somewhere. It's on. I think it might be on like what's that horror streaming service?
here? Shutter.
Shutter. It might be on that one. I think it's on Tubi. There's a couple others you can find it on. You can probably just find it on YouTube. Under their free
Oh,
movie
what is
section.
that was the joke I was going to make during the Flash thing, and now I can't remember. I figure if the Flash movie were to be completely to come out, but they didn't want to do any huge press for it, they would put it on that streaming service that all of the shows that were on it you could watch in portrait on your phone and not in
Oh,
landscape.
Quibi.
Like Quibi, yes, Quibi would pick up the Flash in a heartbeat
Well,
if it was still around.
who was it that picked up most of Quibi's stuff? I think Apple
Probably
TV picked up.
IMDb TV.
Well, I know that Apple TV picked up some of them, but like I think maybe it might have been Roku TV or Fubu, whatever that starts with an F.
Mm-hmm.
That one or Tubi or one of those picked up a bunch of them. Yeah, I could absolutely see it getting on one of those or Sling
Quibi.
TV, one of
Yeah.
those awful.
He's like,
terrible
I got
services.
into Quibi like for a second because I like those Anti-Donna guys from New Zealand.
Yeah, they're great.
And then after like 2 days of watching it in portrait, I was like, this sucks. This is not good. And the
They
Sam
actually
Raimi 50 States of Horror wasn't too bad either.
no, although that Golden Arm one was awful.
that
That
was
is
something,
one of
wasn't
that is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It's again so bad. I recommend everybody watch it. Everybody must feel the horror in cringiness that I felt. But so go watch that, the Golden
And
Armor.
Troll 2. Just watch
Yeah,
Troll 2 immediately
or
afterwards.
Critters too. Um, but that's where a guy's junk gets bit off in a toilet, so that's worth seeing the whole movie for right there. Um, well, it's like Gremlins 2. I think Gremlins 2 is a phenomenal film,
Oh
but it
yeah.
is so campy,
Oh
so
yeah.
campy. So, but that's something like going all the way back to our initial conversation of DC. Is I think that DC needs to understand that not every character is dark and ominous, and that some of them are campy. And I think that there was enough camp in Shazam, and I think that in Fury of the Gods we're going to get enough camp there, that you're going to be okay. Now, my worry is the first trailer of Black Adam. It had a bit of that camp in it, and I don't think that character in his first outing needs to have the same camp as a Shazam, because he's a very different take on that magical character. Um, but like the whole scene where the guy pulls out the nightstick and it hits him in the head and it bends around his head, and he throws the guy like 700 miles away. Okay, that's obviously for a laugh. That's for a little pop. But let's. That's a character you can make a little bit darker, and you have the JSA to offset that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so looking forward to seeing Hawkman on a big screen. You have no idea. He is one of my all-time favorites. I've always been a big JSA fan. Dr. Fate is also one of my favorites. I love him just as much as I love Doctor Strange. He is the Doctor Strange of the DC universe. An incredible character. I love Pierce Morgan, so him playing Dr. Fate is great.
And Pierce Brosnan, Pierce Morgan is a
Or no, not Pierce Morgan. God, no.
God.
Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Morgan on anything is just awful. Ugh, that would be a completely different movie. So I feel like if they keep the lightheartedness, the more the JSA, and the JSA are serious in and of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still the lighter. They're heroes. They're very much heroes. Black Adam. I know a lot of people like to list him as an anti-hero. He's really not.
No.
He's really a villain.
Yeah. I think we're gonna finally get the movie that I have always wanted to see, which was
And
a
yes,
movie
D.
about
Nick, you're right. Yeah, when I mentioned that I want people to watch movies that are terrible because I had to sit through them, it's like, smell this, it stinks. Yeah,
yes.
exactly the same thing. Here, taste this. This is awful. This tastes like shit. Try this. Yeah, same thing.
The what I've wanted for a long time is a movie about a villain where the motivations of what they have is so clear that you find yourself rooting for them. And I think a lot of people kind of did it with Thanos a little bit, but I think The Rock is charming enough where he can pull that off.
Yeah.
And The Rock can still be dark, and they can still have a very dark take on Black Adam in the Shazam universe. But it's going to be in his response to the things like what we saw in the trailer with getting hit over the head and everything bending, is that he's like, this is not funny to me. This is not a joke. I will punt you like across the bay.
I'm hoping that
And
scene is longer. Yeah, like and not what
yeah,
we saw in the trailer.
yeah, and I think that his like overall response to like the typical military shows up, and it of course in the hero story, they don't light up the hero with bullets. They just like, okay, stand down, this guy's a good guy. When they don't do that, and then they shoot everything they have, and then nothing happens to this guy, and then he just lasers all your guys in half, which I don't think they're going to do anything that extreme, but like the gist being that this is not someone to mess around with the way that you've been able to mess around with Shazam and Superman and all, and make jokes the whole time. This guy's a legit bad guy. And then you have the build up to their inevitable, like Shazam and Black Adam, I'm sure will come to a head post Fury of the Gods. And then you can bring in, like whatever they want to do with Black Adam long term, because I think if Black Adam is successful, it'll be The Rock has a franchise to play, another franchise to play with.
Yeah.
And that's what he's want. I mean, half the movies that The Rock has made in the last 10 years have been in an effort to start multiple franchises. He's really only had success with like Jumanji, and he shoehorned himself into the Fast universe.
Yeah,
And
and then
every
Vin
other movie
Diesel
that
got him
he's
out of there.
right, and then every other friend, like he tried, like Skyscraper was supposed to be multiple movies,
Yep.
Rampage was supposed to be multiple
Rampage.
movies,
Yep.
and of course none of those were ever going to go anywhere because they weren't great and they didn't really get the viewership that they wanted. But he's been the reason why he's the highest paid actor in Hollywood, or the highest grossing actor in Hollywood, is that he'll take any job in the hopes that enough people like it that he'll get to do it again and again and again. And Black Adam might be where people are just like, hey, this is the role that you were born to play if you play this version of the character,
Yeah.
or you play this do it this way. And then people fall in love with it. They think it's great. It's a good villain. And then all of a sudden now you have a solid villain for all of your DC heroes to go up against after the kid who really hasn't figured out yet how his powers work fails, you know?
Yeah. I think the Black Adam post credit scene will probably tease a little bit, and then the Fury of the Gods one will tease more about them finally meeting up. Nikki brings up a good point. He could do the role, but still not get in any trouble where he does other movies. Where he could play this villain. Like, well, because one of the things in the trailer that did make me, feel good was that, Dr. Fate goes, "Heroes do not kill people," and he goes, "Well, I do." Like, he's not just falling into what I don't want to see is that by the end of the film he's like, the Justice Society is right. I should be a good guy. Like, I don't like that's the campiness I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But that's like Kevin Hart. What character do you think he would fit into? Well, it's just like I believe that the super pets,
Mr. Mixel picks.
yes, he would make a great Mr. Mixel picks. Or even a Batmite or something like that. But that typecasting. But like super pets, I have yet to see. I need to see it. I was supposed to see it on my birthday, but because I turned 40, I was tired halfway through the day and decided to go home. But that might be a franchise as well. But here he is playing Crypto. He's playing Superman in dog form. He is playing that straightforward. Like he's got abilities to do that kind of stuff, and I think that honestly, we might have seen him in Marvel before now if it hadn't been for the fact that he signed on for Black Adam so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's really like, Denise is like, "Hey, our podcast gets 10% if he's casted." I agree. I get 10% of whatever Kevin Hart's making if he gets cast as either one of those. Yes, we'll just put it all back in the podcast and buy a house, a car, and everything else. Because 10% of what he makes is the thing. Because Kevin Hart also makes a shit ton of money. But I think that he also saw Marvel in the early stages when he signed on for Black Adam. He wanted to do something a little bit darker, a little bit deeper. He wanted to play a villain. Marvel's villains were obviously one and dones.
Right.
He wanted his own film, his own franchise, but he wanted to play a villain because he does play good guys so often. Except for in Doom, he played the bad guy after 3/4 of the movie being the good guy.
I have no qualms with that movie at all whatsoever.
That movie's weird, but I love Carl Urban and I love The Rock.
It's so bad it's good. I've seen that way more times than I would love to admit.
Yeah, Carl Urban, another fantastic person. Love him in The Boys. Loved him as Bones, like the perfect person to portray Bones in Star Trek. He nailed that. Had the aneurysms, the speech mannerisms. It's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean.
The speech pattern. He was able to pretty much emulate. Yeah.
Nailed that role. Love Carl Urban to death. He was great in Thor Ragnarok.
Dread. Like
yeah. Oh God, yeah, fantastic in that. But of course, The Boys. It's hard to match anything else with that. Like he's just phenomenal in that series. And I think that like what DC tried to do, and more specifically what Snyder tried to do, The Boys perfected. The Boys is what Snyder wanted to do with these DC characters. Except you can do it with The Boys because these are not pre-established characters.
Yeah.
In the comic book series, they were brand new characters and they were made that way from the get-go. You weren't taking Superman and making him an asshole. You were taking Homelander and analogy of Superman and showing the asshole there.
Yeah, I think the approach to filmmaking, whether it's TV or movies, in this sense, is the same as the approach of, um, let's go like Alan Moore versus Mark Millar and Frank Miller. Okay, Zack Snyder, in retrospect, let's say that Garth Ennis, uh, Garth Ennis, Mark Millar, and Frank Miller don't like superheroes. They very, very, very stoutly don't like superheroes. And they have made, especially Garth Ennis and Mark Millar, have made it throughout their careers to show examples of why superheroes are not a good thing, especially Garth Ennis with the various series that he's done, whether it's The Pro or The Boys or any of that. Mark Waid did it for Top Cow, I think, with Irredeemable.
Mm-hmm.
Same concept. And what winds up happening is that you have a person like Alan Moore who gets lumped in with them because of stories like Watchmen, where Watchmen is a love letter to the Charlton characters by bringing them into a real world scenario that they would have never otherwise been in because of the time period in which their original stuff was written.
Yeah.
And the kind of film side of it is that the people that make The Boys love superheroes. They like
Eric
everything
Kripke.
about
Eric Kripke is an amazing
Yes.
dude. First off, 15 seasons of Supernatural. That's unheard of.
Yeah, that's a long running TV
And it
show
was
for sure.
good all the way through. I love Supernatural. Amazing series. Good all the way through. Even when Eric Kripke left, he left it in good hands. So he could go do The Boys, and the show did not taper off.
Oh wow.
Not only did he love, and that was again kind of not so much superheroes, but still kind of it was still kind of a very comic booky kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very emotional. It's very well done, and I think not only does Eric Kripke love superheroes, he also listens to fans. Because roles like Castiel were supposed to be one season and done, and he went on to do 12 seasons because he was so loved. There were so many characters like that. Eric Kripke gets it. And the Boys comic book series isn't good.
No, it's not.
Like I read
It's
the
good
first
until Highland Laddie. After Highland Laddie, just jump off.
I read up to Highland Laddie the first time I read it because that's the first trade paperback. It's like right before that. I'm like, man, this is really good. I'm so excited to read more. And like
No,
the
you're
first
not.
season, and then like I read more, and I'm all like, I wish I had never touched this. And
Yeah.
and we're talking about a show that in season 3, episode 1, and by the way, I had to sit on this for over 2 weeks. I got to see a preview screening of the season. Now pre most VFX, but still very gross because they did this scene partially practically, so there was still a lot to see. Season 3 opens, and within the first 20 minutes, you have a character called the Termite, who is an Ant-Man adjacent character, shrinking down, crawling inside his boyfriend's penis, sneezing, and exploding back up to normal size and completely killing. And you see it all. When I'm talking about practical, they built a gigantic penis for him to crawl into and make it like it was. The behind the scenes on it is insane. Watching that show and having to sit on that and everything else I had to sit on for over 2 weeks, like the Hero Gasm episode, was one of I almost needed therapy. Like I was like, I can't talk about this with people, and I need to, and my camera just froze. Bitch. All right, I'll fix it real quick. But yeah,
No,
so
I feel like the difference is that you have someone handling The Boys who loves superheroes, right? And you can see it in their body of work. I don't legitimately believe that Zack Snyder loves superheroes. I think Zack Snyder likes the idea of imagery for superheroes because that's what he does right. He's a very good cinematographer. But
oh yeah,
everything else is just what are you doing here? There's a lot of religious imagery pumped in, especially for Superman and Batman v Superman. There's a lot of different, he's pulled like Michelangelo paintings and made them into set pieces to like, to showcase the characters, which is awesome. but that's great for music videos and car commercials, not for a movie where you want people to be invested in characters, and that's where he ultimately falls off because he's not really invested in the characters. He doesn't
I'm sorry.
understand the characters at a very fundamental level.
Our chat is insane. I love you guys all. I love all of you. Denise goes, "We didn't learn that in sixth grade sex ed. Thanks, public education." Yeah. If you can shrink down and climb inside your boyfriend's penis and you sneeze, you will kill them.
And they will love it until you do.
It is an instant STD. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that also tells you how bad Garth Ennis's run with the boys got. If this series, which is outlandish and ridiculous,
oh yeah,
and yet so good and so true to what the core of that series is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the comics just go ridiculous. Like I said, I recommend everybody read the first trade paperback. Read volume 1.
Yeah.
Read
the
volume
first
1.
two, because 1 and 2 is up to Herogasm, and then Highland Landy I think was after that, and then it's because I think there's 7 or 8. I have all of them somewhere, but
I think in the new print, I think Herogasm is the end of the first. I think now they're thicker now. I think on a new printing, I think 1 and 2 are together, and I think 3 and 4 are together. I think it's only 3 volumes total now.
Oh, okay.
But they're also thicker. They're also almost like omnibus.
There might be compendiums.
Yeah, that might be what it is. But I can tell you that when I read the second one was just
like where they go with it is like the one thing I don't like is I don't like artist change. Like the first arc had phenomenal art, they never went back to it. Everything with the boys on in terms of the comics was great until you realize that Garth Ennis is only good for shock value and not much else. Like Garth Ennis's only other real big books are his runs on the Punisher, which he's suited for someone like the Punisher. He doesn't like superheroes. If you like superheroes, you should not like the Punisher. Exactly. And then obviously Crossed has its following, which I've heard rumblings of that being made into a TV series, and I sincerely hope they never do that. I sincerely, even if it's David Latham's pickup where he left off, and David Latham is a phenomenal horror writer. Do not make that a series. I do not want to see a single person dressed up as a Cross at a Comic-Con ever. It's disgusting. Do not do that. But the what the boys TV show is able to do, the series could have very well done that if Garth Ennis didn't run out of the shock value ideas that he had and then went off and did, I'm going to go back and do Punisher of it. Oh, I'm going to do the Pro. I'm going to do this. And it's kind of like Garth, like the lack of involvement Garth Ennis has in the boys ultimately benefits it, because you have people who understand what the initial message is, are able to, for lack of a better word, recycle it over and over again and not get old. You have, takes on these very iconic characters' powers and how they can be horribly misused, it's the idea that the person who has superpowers, who's supposed to represent the best of us, regular humans who don't have any powers, cannot do anything to invoke real change outside of like normal human means, are worse than the worst of us, who are people who belong in jail, and that got lost after, I would say, around Highland Laddie, because he goes off into this other direction to write about Scotland and stuff, which is fine, but it doesn't serve any long-standing purpose other than to open up the world in a way that it doesn't need to be opened. You could have had episodic, just like the TV show, episodic issues every week of like soup of the week, who's this terrible person, or any of that stuff, and they just chose not to do it. They wanted to keep going and going, and then things and the way they break down in the comics are not how they're going to break down the show based on who's still around. So it's still, I think it's all, like I said, ultimately benefits that he's not involved in it very much at all.
Or then it's my dad went to there's a place called Ollie's down here. I don't know if they exist other places. Ollie's is kind of like this bargain bin place. What it is, they get all this overstock from different places, and they sell it super. And they have a huge comic book section. And one of the things they have is graphic novels. And my dad's like, "Oh, I'll pick up it's an Avengers one. This will be great." Written by Garth Ennis. When I tell you that in this one shot book, and it's only, even though it's hardcover, it's only basically one issue, not very long. This one shot, when he makes every Avenger on that team so irredeemably unlikable. You have Hawkeye being the biggest. Now he's obviously Hawkeye's always been a guy who's been kind of chippy with his stuff. He's very like antagonistic a little bit. He likes to poke at people. To make him to the point where he almost has Wolverine not only kill him but kill Captain America. And Captain America himself is an absolute douchebag in this comic. Every character, everyone on the Avengers, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Wolverine, Hawkeye, Captain America, I believe. Well, there was one other character I can't remember, but Thor, I think Hulk. But they're all the same level of douchebag, and it's at 1,000. In this one comic, if anybody read this who was trying to get into comics, they would absolutely hate the Avengers and never touch the comic. That's how bad it is. And then the story in and of itself, whatever their mission is, you don't care. You don't care.
That's the worst.
So you don't care about the mission, and you hate the characters. And it's just like, I have definitive proof. If you ever like anybody's like, "Oh, well, how do you know that Garth Ennis hates superheroes?" Let me give you this book. Read this.
Yeah, the Boys is pretty damning, I think, for that case. It's kind of the same thing. Like Mark Millar did not write very likable characters in the Ultimates and Ultimates 2, or in Ultimate Wolverine versus Ultimate Wolverine versus Ultimate Hulk. Like they're just he took these, did the same thing that Garth Ennis does. You take what the power is, you dial it to 1,000,000, and you give it to the worst person you possibly can. Like there were certain things when Jason Eccles that was playing Soldier Boy
Jensen Ackles, yeah.
Jensen Ackles is very reminiscent of, by the way, nailing the Chris Evans impression, but at the same time, like that is closer to Mark Millar's Captain America than Chris Evans is. A lot of those types of characters are a lot like Mark Millar is knocking on that doorstep too, because he writes movies that get turned into comic books, not comic books.
Yeah.
But it's one of, like, Garth Ennis is one of those things where, like, if it's a Punisher book, awesome, I'll read it. Him and Wolverine, he did a Wolverine Punisher arc that was really good. It had a gang, or the mob was taken over by little people, and they were sawing people's shins off and turning them into elves to humiliate them to the point where they committed suicide. Wolverine gets his face shot with a shotgun, and you see his adamantium skull underneath it for the whole issue. It's great. It's
yeah,
insane.
okay, yeah, I know what run you're talking about.
Yeah, it's insane, but it's a testament that Garth Ennis hates all these people, and Frank Castle, unfortunately, is his vehicle the entire time. But yeah, to get back to what we were talking about, like with the guys like Alan Moore love superheroes, and the guys that do The Boys love superheroes. Zack Snyder doesn't like superheroes. Mark Millar, Frank Miller, and Garth Ennis, they don't like superheroes. And you can see it in their motive behind showing you what these, where The Boys is a celebration of cape shit at its absolute worst. And then you have Zack Snyder's Justice League and Batman v Superman and all that, which is cape shit where you think it's great, but what if their intentions were more sinister? And then you're just like, I don't care. It's fucking Superman. Have him pull a goddamn plane out of the air and save people. Why is I'm going off the rails. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
Why is Brandon Routh's Superman catching a fucking airplane and landing it in a baseball field better than anything Henry Cavill's fucking Superman did in terms of what it does for the character? Because the only comparison he has is the fucking bus scene, and that's him learning how to be a good guy. It's just, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Hate's a very strong word. I highly dislike the characterization of every character that's been under the direction of Zack Snyder, because he fundamentally does not understand them. And
yeah,
it just all right.
Well, when you approach Superman with the understanding of the Jesus allegory, you've already misinterpreted the entire thing, and that's what he did. And like that scene where in Batman v Superman, when he goes down to try to like figure out what Bruce Wayne is tapping into, but then he sees that story from Mexico, with the explosion and whatever, and he flies down to Mexico, and he's got the kid that he saved, and he's slowly floating down, and everybody's trying to reach up and touch him, like he's this whole Messiah scene.
That's from like a fucking
Yeah,
Michelangelo painting.
yeah, and then there's the talk about how he's a Jesus, like all those news reports that are like filtered in at right after that or during that scene about how he's a Jesus. Like that's not like you've taken it too far. And Kel says that CPG is my spirit animal. And Denise asks, why can't people just have fun and do that? That's a very good point. Why do people feel the need, like Zack Snyder, to tear down this iconic character that stands
Because
for so much? Why it's a contrarian way of thinking at the end of the day. I saw a TikTok just earlier today. Oh, nobody likes Superman. If you say that Superman is unironically your favorite superhero, you're a loser. Why? Why?
if you want it, what Zack Snyder was probably actually setting out to do, what he gets lost in is that he doesn't understand Superman as a character. What he wanted to probably do is move things into the direction of All-Star Superman. Phenomenal take on the character.
Great book. Great book.
However, he doesn't fundamentally understand the character of Superman, so you get all these Jesus allegories. The hurricane people, the survivors of the hurricane, putting his symbol on the top of the roof, right?
Yep.
That is a splash page at the beginning of an issue that tells you the title of the issue, who writes it, and all that, and then you never see that again. It doesn't come up in the actual story because it's not meant to be anything more than a pretty splash page. He decides that I'm going to rope this in with this like Jesus allegory. I'm going to show all this De La Stolas Muertos stuff, and I'm going to then make sure that my Willy Wonka interpretation of Lex Luthor has this, painting that is showing devils and whatever, and that's going to be. I'm like, stop it. Kirby definitely wasn't writing about devils and shit when he made the parademons and Darkseid. And to me, it's like you fundamentally do not understand. I really wish that the New Gods movie had been made by someone who understands Kirby and does it the right way in the Kirby style. Because even the style that they put on Darkseid in the movie, I'm like, it's not like you already had the 10-foot tall gay basketball player as the villain in 300. I don't need Darkseid to be a 10-foot tall gay basketball player. Like I want the full suit. I want it to be alien Kirby as shit because that's who that character is. And because he doesn't understand it, he just merged all this the macho bullshit that he knows. He's even said in interviews, I picked on the kids who read comic books when I was a kid. I played sports. I didn't grow up with any of this stuff. And I'm like, then why did you hire him to make a fucking movie? Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
But it's like, why would you hire him to make a movie other than based on his visuals? The visuals are fine. You can keep all of that. Just have him be the cinematographer and then hire a person who can actually make a movie and not a car commercial or a suicide prevention commercial or like a music video. Look at Sucker Punch. He had all the creative control. That movie sucks. It's beautiful, but it sucks.
It's one of those movies you watch with the sound off because it is just visually stunning. Denise goes, "We just need our own island. Who's in? I'm in." Yeah, no, seriously. Zack Snyder, like seriously, like there's another movie. What is it called? Is it called Valorant? Valiant. It was
with the owls.
No. It's the one. It's not a Zack Snyder film.
That's the greatest movie he ever made because there's just all visuals.
But there's a movie. It's by the guy who created Fifth Element. It was the movie he wanted to make back when he made Fifth Element, but the technology wasn't there, and he made it. And it has that movie is visually one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. I remember seeing it in the theaters. Denise and I actually went and saw it. We were like, wow, that was amazing. And of course, Fifth Element is in my top 5 movies of all time. Love that movie. So of course I go in to see it. I go into it. I'm loving it. Upon a second watch, I'm like, oh, this movie isn't good. it was just visually amazing. It is one of the most beautiful films ever. It is just so well shot, so well choreographed, the whole nine. But the film itself, I'm like, oh, this is like these characters suck. Like the story's awful. Like this isn't good. And that's actually it's actually a comic book movie. It's based on an old French magazine comic. And I'm not talking about Stargate. Stargate's an amazing film, and that will always be an amazing film for the day. You know, Valorant, thank you, Kel. Um, Stargate is phenomenal. So is Stargate SG-1. Um, there's a thing that can be said for certain directors that approach the comic book medium from a visual standpoint. That's great. But this is where people need to the people who get it visually, like Zack Snyder, he gets the visual aspect of it. Have him be your visual guy. Have him be your cinematographer. Have him be in head of your special effects guy. Not character design. Leave that to proper comic book people, because we saw that with Steppenwolf and Darkseid and all the rest. So, like, let the character design go to people.
The only good ones were the Green Lanterns and Granny Goodness. Those are the only two that they like. The Green Lantern scene in the beginning of the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I go, holy shit, he got one thing right. It's all visual, but the design and how the ring reacts and all that is dead on. And the leaked picture of the gentleman they were going to have play Jon Stewart, dead on, 100% in for all that if that guy can act.
Yeah.
Granny Goodness looked phenomenal. That's what Granny Goodness is supposed to look like. Everything else, I'm like, you were right there. The parademons are a smooth surface away from being parademons. Not like before Doomsday got his initial costume ripped off and they put wings on it. Like they're like he's so close, but what he needed was a director so he could be the cinematographer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I won't even talk about Doomsday and Batman v Superman. Ugh.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think Ben Affleck's Batman look is phenomenal. And I also do think that he got the Frank Miller Batman armor in Batman v Superman right.
Yeah, he did for sure. That was pretty good.
I think that for the most part, the Superman suit is good. The Flash suit is atrocious.
Yeah, not great.
Cyborg is atrocious. Wonder Woman was good. But I think, like, this is going to sound weird, but I think hers is the easiest to hit.
In that medium, there's one of two ways he could have done it, right? I think what they went with was good because whoever the costume designer was for that, if it wasn't him, definitely knew that he was going to go in one of two directions. Because if you look at like Wonder Woman, like the first Wonder Woman movie, and how Themyscira looks, how the Amazons all look, and they're wearing practical armor, they're using practical weapons, everything is very. And then you see the Amazons and the Greek gods and all that in the beginning of the Snyder cut, and you're like, everyone's half naked. What the fuck's going on? Like he very well could have done that with Wonder Woman, and someone stepped in and said, you cannot. This isn't 1995. You can't dial all that stuff up to 1,000,000 to like, engage the audience you're probably trying to engage here. I didn't care for Aquaman's design either. I think Cyborg Cyborg suffers from it being entirely CGI. Like, is it bad? Is it bad to want the Cyborg from like the Super Friends or like from when Jeff Johns brought him back, where he's a cyborg but he looks like a normal dude just with like plates everywhere, like something muted and very subtle. Like if you're not doing that, like even on Doom Patrol, like that cyborg's like leaps and bounds better than what we got in the Snyder movies, and it's not Ray Fisher's fault.
No, not at all.
It's just the design of the character. It was like you can't. The whole part is that he's half machine and half man, and you made him like 99.9% machine. So you've already misunderstood the character. Flash's design I don't understand. Like it goes against the whole point of the suit being like one piece and skin tight and probably spandex, is that if he runs fast enough, it'll all blow off of him. It just
Yeah, I
didn't.
mean, well, there's so much to the whole the absurdity of the flash ring with the suit, which they brought into the series, which I was so happy to see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, as somebody who can move, as fast as the Flash, he can also fold something with the pressure because with his speed he builds pressure. I mean, the guy has a 1 megaton punch. I mean, come on. So there was so many things fundamentally he got wrong, and I think that if you just had him visually working on things, and maybe that would be enough to get Snyder fans to stop being so toxic. Bring back Snyder, but for the visual aspect.
The Snyder cultists have no idea what's coming with that. Like when that sci-fi movie gets dropped on Netflix, they have no idea. They think the comic book community came after them and blew them out of the water and everything, and has not been welcoming to them. The moment that those people say that what is it, Horizon, Infinite Horizons or something that he's
Something
making
like
for
that,
Netflix,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
based on a Star Wars movie that he wrote that they wouldn't let him make and they didn't want to touch. So it's going to be Star Wars-esque, and I don't think those people, as a united front as they are against Marvel and anything that's not Zack Snyder's DC, they have no idea what's waiting for them on the other side of like the sci-fi fan base, because he
Absolutely.
if they even like look at Avatar. Okay, Avatar is a visually stunning movie for the one. I mean, I saw the first one. I am not really interested in the second one, but Avatar doesn't have the long lasting impact on the sci-fi community like Stargate, Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, all that stuff, because those fan bases shut that movie down immediately.
Yeah.
And the united front of sci-fi fans that I've seen against Avatar, for what in my opinion are valid reasons sometimes, those people will destroy all of those Snyder cultist people. I mean, it'll be a vicious cycle of toxicity, but like they won't have a leg to stand on, even on the off chance, or even on the chance that the Infinite Horizon movie that he's making is good. The those fan bases are the most like Star Wars is the worst.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're some
on
of
the
the most
surface
toxic,
level,
yeah.
Star Trek is just as bad, but it's like you got to go find the message board that those people are still on because they're not on Twitter,
Yeah.
and they like I sincerely don't think that the Snyder cult people are ready for old school sci-fi to just absolutely destroy them,
Yeah,
because it's gonna happen.
it's not it's going to be insane. And it's going to be this tornado of toxicity. It's going to be I don't know if the film has any chance of being good, even if it is good. You know what I mean? Like, I have
Yeah.
a feeling that as soon as it comes out, well, it's like a lot of people gave Zack Snyder a chance with the Army of the Dead movie with Dave Bautista. That was just bad. I turned it off.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It just wasn't good. And that's something he's already done well before. He's done zombie movies well before. And the horror people kind of like, nope, that's not good. We're not going to, that goes away. Bye bye.
Well, it fundamentally changed the zombie dynamic. Everything after his Dawn of the Dead movie, all of a sudden zombies are fast and all this and all that. That's not I mean, even like theoretically, the original zombies in the Romero movies were ghouls. They weren't zombies, but like the the way that zombie movies have that work now are because of how that movie was. I mean, Resident Evil I think played a little bit of part of that too, but like the whole idea of like the World War Z and all that, all those visuals, it all comes from that movie, and it's its own kind of pocket thing. And the horror people definitely didn't like. I mean, there were people who thought that, holy crap, this take on zombies is terrifying. It is, because they can outrun you and then everything else. But it's not the norm, because he wasn't making a movie because he understood Romero zombie movies. He made a movie that
Yeah.
was visually good and was terrifying and changed up the genre. All good things. They're like I've seen Dawn of the Dead a couple of times. Probably in the last in this year alone. Like it's not a movie that when it comes on I turn it off immediately. But it's another kind of showing that like yeah, he doesn't understand the Romero zombies, so he just made his own. And
Yeah.
a lot of people followed suit with that with some of the stuff that's came out afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that I almost think that might have given him a false sense of superiority in being able to change a genre in a way. He thought he could do the same thing with superheroes. So he obviously has a predisposition to a certain type of look and a certain type of feel for a film. You look at his catalog of stuff, it's all pretty much the same. So he's watching these Marvel movies. He's like, oh, this is too bright. This is too campy. This is too fun. You know, we need to make it dark. We need to go da 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 da. I need to change the game. But instead of going to this, like, I love Batman and Superman and I want to make the best movie possible, it was like, how can I alter superheroes to fit my style?
Yeah.
And that's what writers like Ennis and Lar and all those guys have done. And that is now what Snyder has done. And it's just WB have just had this snowball falling down Everest and picking up more and more snow of just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit between putting Snyder in charge. Because again, Warner Brothers was like, I don't know if y'all remember this, but back before Avengers came out, Warner Brothers very openly and very loudly said that an ensemble cast film like the Avengers will never work, which is why you will never see us do a Justice League movie. It's going to fail. It's going to bankrupt Marvel Studios before it's even a thing, and they're going to fail. Disney bought into a failing product. It's going to be awful. Avengers comes out. It's one of the biggest movies ever. They're like, hey, just kidding. Here's what we're doing. You know, and they try to play catch up. And that's when they kick the snowball down the mountain. Just been one bad thing after another. And they cannot catch a break to save their lives. Every now and then, they hit a little bank where they can slow down with something like the first Wonder Woman or Shazam or something. But even like Shazam and Aquaman, you could see they had like, oh, we have to change direction. We have to make this more like Marvel. And now they've come out and said it again. Now with this Discovery merger, hey, just like Marvel, we're going to have a 10-year plan. And we're going to do this. Like, instead of trying to copy Marvel or be the antithesis to Marvel, find people who understand the characters and just let them make the movies. You will find success that way.
They need to find a Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
They need to.
They have one. Jim Lee.
Yeah, but here's the fundamental difference, right? It's so Kevin Feige is a filmmaker first and a comic book fan second. That's where they keep screwing up because before, like their Feige was going to be was Zack Snyder under the direction of Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns has never made a movie in his entire life.
No.
He just was like, here's what you get to play with, and then let Zack Snyder do his thing, right? They need to find someone who is at a core can take the 10-year plan and shrink it down so that it's streamlined, it makes sense, and then you bring in your Jeff Johns. I wouldn't do Jeff Johns now because he's fallen off so hard. But your Tom Kings or any of those guys, and be like, okay, does this fit something that you could have done in a book? And then they could say yes, and then you go and you farm out your directors underneath this person from there. They don't have that. And Zack Snyder was not that person because he wasn't making movies. He was making car commercials and music videos. And
but he also wasn't going to delegate. He wanted to do it all.
Right. Yeah. He wanted one singular vision.
You know who might be able to do it? And I would say partner them with Jim Lee on this? Kevin Smith.
That's ambitious because you're opening the door to a lot of different possibilities. His Green Arrow run is fantastic, and his Daredevil run is fantastic, but they're not long running.
what I'm reading in my segment for later on, one of the things I picked up was his Spider-Man Black Cat, which is also really good.
Hmm. The
Um,
Marvel Knights run, yeah.
yeah. So like he's, but he's also somebody I think that he wouldn't put his stamp on it. Like it wouldn't be a, oh, this is a Kevin Smith movie. Like I think that he would be able to oversee it, and if he's not directing it and he's not writing every script, but just overseeing it like a Kevin Feige, he would be, because if you listen to his podcast and the way he talks about it, first of all, his love for both Marvel and DC is phenomenal. But when you hear him talk about certain things and the way he does, like I think that as an overseer, he could be that Kevin Feige for DC. Now you partner him with Jim Lee, and because I think like you could go like the Tom King route or something like that, but I think with Jim Lee, who has done so many characters in DC and has overseen it as editor in chief for so long, that he would be somebody to understand better. Like the two of them together could find the right directors for each project. I think they would have enough understanding that together they could find the right people for it. Before, like I said, they wanted Zack Snyder to be their Kevin Feige, but the way they were doing it was Zack Snyder got to direct, got to write, got to do everything, and that's first off just way too much to put onto one person for a whole universe. And uh second, like he obviously he if you put all his films together, there's a very singular style. There's no there's no it's a that tree has no forks in it. It is a palm tree with no top. It is just straight one way.
Yeah.
So you would, if you get somebody like, but Kevin Smith has variety in his style. He has variety in what he can do. But as long as he's not the one actually writing and directing, just have him overseeing everything, he can guide that ship along with Jim Lee, find the right directors, find the right people, involve the right comic people, help consult or even write. And I think that would be better. Now, do I think WB or Discovery are going to do that? No. I think that this David Selnick is going to try to be Kevin Feige, and it's going to go even worse down the rails. The way he has spoken, I think he's going to run it like Ike Perlmutter tried to run Marvel in the beginning. And it's just not going to go well. The fact that they're already gender splitting HBO Max and Discovery, the fact that they're already scrapping, these damn near finished projects because it doesn't fit their current mold, even though it would have been exciting to see. It doesn't hurt your tent poles of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. You could have released Batgirl and still had a Batman, whatever, the whole thing. I don't think they're on the right path. I just don't think so. And
I think for DC and Warner Brothers, you have the way that I would do it using the Kevin Smith thing is you need to, if you want to distinguish yourself from Marvel, Marvel does everything very much in the now, does things very much in align with like current events, and their movies are formulaic, at least for the first one, and their separate trilogies. But they have the overall like kind of like you're dropped into a world that isn't that much different than when the one you're in now. It just happens to have people with extraordinary abilities in it, which is fine. With someone like Kevin Smith and Jim Lee, you could honestly, not in the same style, but go back um, to the style of universe of 89 Batman and do the camp and do everything. Think of like a 1987 issue of Detective Comics with Joker on it, where he's as big as the skyscrapers throwing a card at the viewer, like that kind of cheesy.
so,
The neon lights and everything, like I'm talking like 1983,
yeah.
1987 DC Comics. If
Funny
you
enough,
made a universe like that,
yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh, it'd
You'll
be
kill.
great. It's funny you mention that because God rest Neil Adams. I got to meet him at New York Comic Con before his passing, and I actually did a sketch cover of that cover, the exact cover you're talking about, where he's throwing
Hmm.
the playing card. It's got Batman on it, and he's huge. And I showed it to him, and he actually really loved it. So that was really cool to get that from Neil Adams. And
That's
that's, of course,
awesome.
that was my homage to Neil Adams. Which, by the way, Neil Adams is to me the definitive Batman artist. The Batman we know now is because of Neil Adams. It's just like George Perez, also, God rest his soul, Superman.
Oh
Which,
yeah.
speaking of, another one of the things I have in my stack from 1988, it's the golden anniversary issue. George Perez, love this cover. Um, Interesting stories throughout. So yeah. If you go back to that, and it doesn't have to be the Christopher Reeve Superman necessarily,
Right.
but you know, it could be in a way. And I think that Henry Cavill has the ability to play that type of Superman because that's what he wanted to play. For
Hmm.
his test screening, he put on the old Reeves Superman suit and wept
Right.
because it meant that much to him. So there's a lot there. And some Future brought up they should bring in Lord and Miller from Spider-Verse. They could run it. I think Sony needs to hold on to them and put them in charge because what Sony's doing is almost as bad. Luckily, they don't have as many terrible people involved. Like they're getting by on the skin of their teeth just because they don't have. Granted, Jared Leto's got his own cult, and that's just he's not a good person either. But like, there's just so much. So Denise asks, "What would you like to see coming up?" I would love to see. Like, I have hope that this 10-year plan might work. I want to see Superman back on the screen. I don't necessarily need Ben Affleck back as Batman. I actually really like the Robert Pattinson Batman. I thought the ending of that film gave us the most, in all of Batman cinema, the most truest sense of Batman as a hero was that ending scene where he's saving people from the flooded their version of the Gotham Square Garden, and he's carrying a little girl. He's doing that. There's a whole monologue running. He's carrying a little girl, and he puts her on a stretcher, and she won't let him go because that's the hero she knows. That's the person who saved her, and that's the only person she trusts in that moment. Every other Batman film, it ends with him being like, the
Brooding and
public,
alone.
yeah, the public sees him as a villain. Like, oh, he's not the hero we deserve, but he's the hero we need. Blah blah blah. Like too far in the shadows. Batman, at the end of the day, is a hero. Batman, at the end of the day, is still, even though he is a symbol of fear for evil, he's still a symbol for hope for good people because he is a hero. And I believe that ending in the Batman with Robert Pattinson gave us that for the first time ever. It wasn't about him escaping. It wasn't about him falling into the shadows, continuing to be a vigilante. He had moved from vigilante to full blown hero at the end of that film. And to me, it was one of the greatest endings for anything in the one of the greatest scenes in anything we've ever gotten for Batman. I also thought that Robert Pattinson nailed the character. I thought his acting through his eyes was phenomenal. His methodical steps, the way he spoke, everything about it was just so well done. So I'd like to see that continue. If you can fold that into this universe you're talking about, that would be great. And honestly, now would be the time because he is only year two. That film is year two of Batman. So he's very early in his career. You can build it similar to how the animated series, when it rebooted itself with the Justice League War, where the heroes all met. Green Lantern thought Batman was nothing more than a myth. They had never met Superman before, but he had been tracking him. Like, you can do that so you could, instead of leaving Matt Reeves on the outside, you can make that your Batman. You can then bring in Henry Cavill or another Superman, and it's a new take. You can do that with these tentpole characters. You do the same thing with Wonder Woman. If we're gonna have to recast Wonder Woman anyways, you might as well start from scratch. But you can make her the diplomat, like she was in that run, where she's come from Themyscira, and now she's the diplomat in modern times. You could have a modern Steve Trevor, like in the anime. The thing, Warner, and that's the craziest part. Warner Brothers does so well on the animated side. To have such a 180 with their films is weird.
Yeah.
So, but there's so much potential there they can build off of. But if you want to keep Matt Reeves separate and make that just a separate universe, there's still so much you can do. I have high hopes, but I also have very low expectations.
Yeah, I agree for the most part with that. Matt, the only thing that I think is that Matt Reeves is the universe that he's made. I don't, that's the problem with Batman, right? Is how do you bring the metahuman type of stuff into that? When you introduce a character of like Superman and you stand him next to Pattinson's Batman, the believability that like these two people, if they came to a disagreement, that Superman doesn't just like flick him and it's over. Like that was one thing I will say that they kind of got right in the Snyder stuff, is that like that Batman stood toe to toe with Superman and like made him his, like tried to like get him to like understand through his way that like we're somewhat equal on this playing field. I don't see, almost for the same reason why I don't think Superman works in like the Nolan universe, right? I think Matt Reeves is something that has to be contained because he's going to put a he's gonna like, I hate dark gritty grounded, right? But he's going to ground a lot of the characters, like even Riddler. Riddler was like Jigsaw BTK, like that was what it was based, or Zodiac Killer or whatever. That's what
Yeah.
it's based on, and you can, that'll work, and that'll work for a lot of things. Like I honestly, if they wanted to do a serial killer story and they're like, oh, they should do the Joker for this and Batman, I'm like, no, do Professor Pig, because
Yeah.
that in that universe works better. um I think we're beyond Joker stuff too. Like, as great as the tease was at the end of that, he doesn't have to be the villain in the next one. If the
No.
rumors are true and it's Mr. Freeze,
Yeah.
then how do you ground Mr. Freeze to where he's not Schwarzenegger and he's not like a head in a, in a fishbowl.
Well,
You know,
on the Mr. Freeze part, and I think that's the thing with Matt Reeves is he talked about he didn't want to go superpowers just yet, but he doesn't feel the need to ground it exactly. He has talked about that. So I trust that he'll do Mr. Freeze well. And he'll be a person in a suit having to keep his body cool. It won't be this humongous suit necessarily like in the Arnold version or in the Arkham series of games. But it's going to lead more, it'll pull heavily from the animated series where Mr. Freeze became a legit character. Um but I think by having somebody like Mr. Freeze, it does allow it. But I also think that the thing that we're not thinking about with Matt Reeves' Batman is he's leaned much more into the detective side, the planning side.
mm,
We are gonna see more of the, because he is in that movie. He's a terrible Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson is a terrible Bruce Wayne, but that's a good thing for this film
yeah,
because at this point in year 2, he's just like, I don't want to be Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is a mask. I am Batman. Now it's like, okay, I realize I do have to have this mask of Bruce Wayne and play, because he can play the playboy in the next one a little bit up, kind of like Christian Bale. Uh, but by keeping him with this world's greatest detective, somebody who plans, somebody like that actually works better, I think, than what Ben Affleck did. But what did Ben Affleck do? He planned for his fight with Superman.
right,
In that, there's that whole montage. If you have a character that you know is very intellectual, the world's greatest detective, somebody who plans and plans and plans, you could easily then make this version of Batman stand next to Superman. But my other side of that is we never have to go the route of Batman versus Superman ever again.
right.
Have them meet up, have them form this weird bond of I don't trust you, but I know I need you. And of course, Superman is much more trustworthy. He sees the hero that Batman is and trusts him. Batman's a little more obviously standoffish, but that forms the bond of the world's finest. And then you can do the world's finest with Pattinson's, but you build to that. Because right now he's, like I said, he's only in year 2. You can build to that Batman. who then has the bond with Superman. I think in that case you do kind of have to maybe recast. You can't go Cavill, because I think no matter what happens, Cavill's always going to have the stink of that Snyder Messiah complex Superman on him.
I think Cavill next to Pattinson is it's
Now,
like
granted,
a
remember Pattinson's actually taller than Henry
right.
Cavill. Henry Cavill's not as tall as people think.
But Cavill's huge.
Also,
Like Cavill's
massive.
huge.
Yeah.
I think that if in the Matt Reeves universe, you maybe it's safer to go visually the route of that Superman isn't jacked out of his mind,
Well,
and
kind
that
of like
it's an unassuming, like it sucks, but like it sucks because it'll never be this person. But remember, like in what was it called? This John Favreau movie with Vince Vaughn, but like when Vince Vaughn was younger and like in terrific shape, I was like, if it wasn't for him opening his mouth and sounding like me or anyone else from Chicago,
Swingers.
Yeah, Swingers, yeah, like very well could have been Superman. Like the unassuming, like he's in good shape because he's a big
Yeah.
guy, but he's not like
Yeah.
and
Henry
it's
Cavill was meant to not have a shirt on ever. Like, I
right.
don't think I think it should be illegal for Henry Cavill to have a shirt on. I'm just saying. The man should never have to wear a shirt. But what's his name? The one that does Superman and Lois, the TV show.
Oh yeah. I
He,
don't
I
know who
think
he is, but
now he is in the process of bulking himself up. He's been getting bigger, but I think especially when he started as just a cameo appearance in those crossovers for the CW events. Tyler something, got his name, but I think he'd be great. But yeah, you're right. Somebody who is maybe closer to a swimmer's build.
yeah,
Versus somebody like Henry Cavill
who's got to walk sideways through doors. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Somebody who just looks good in the suit but doesn't have to be like ridiculously big. Like I remember even, I watched a lot of the I watched a ton of behind the scenes stuff. If you get the Donner cut DVD of Superman 2, there's a whole documentary and they talk about how they actually had to Tyler Henshin. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Chad. There's a whole part like halfway through filming they had to remake his entire suit because Christopher Reeves had bulked up during filming and gotten so big he ripped through his suits and they had to make a whole new set of suits for him. But think about Christopher Reeve in the first one. In the first Superman film, his Clark Kent work
unassuming. Yeah,
he was unassuming, and that's one of the things. There's a great book I have. It's one of those coffee table books, and it's called The Anatomy of the DC Universe, and it's Batman's journal about how everybody's powers work. And he talks about Superman, but he also talks about how Superman purposely slouches, goes from 6'6" to 6'4", goes from a bass to an alto in his voice, brings his own jaw forward to change his face shape. He also, whenever he is Superman, he's actually vibrating his face so nobody can get a clear look at his face. All these different like little idiosyncrasies that to make Clark not be Superman. It's not just the glasses. But we obviously can't do that in a film, except for the slouching and the glasses. But you get somebody who looks unassuming in their suit as Clark, which again, Brandon Routh, I thought did phenomenal. I thought he was great. Was he mimicking Christopher Reeve? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But he still nailed the bumbling Clark Kent and then for lack of a better term, regal Superman. Like he was just like this kind of like yeah, you believed him in the suit.
I can't even remember in Batman v Superman or if any of them did they just straight out be like, yeah, like Perry knows that he's Superman, because like there's no way, like there's an even
nothing's
bigger,
ever said.
There's an even bigger like case for when Kevin Smith said that Lois Lane is the dumbest character of all time because she can't tell the difference between this and this, and like it's even more so because of how big Henry Cavill is. Like, how could you not know that that Clark Kent is Superman in that universe, just how things aesthetically look?
Yeah, there
I
was no
swear to I
deny.
didn't want this to turn into me shitting on fucking Snyder for a whole episode.
No, it's
But
fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, there was absolutely there's no discounting that. Like, there's just like Henry Cavill is a great Superman, and I would love to see him back in the suit. But at the same time, but you can also do a movie where Clark doesn't exist. Not like he doesn't exist, but we don't need Clark in every film. Like, you can do it where Superman, like, do a Superman film where he's fighting Brainiac, so he's just Superman the whole time. Like, you can do these kind of things. So it's possible that you could bring Henry Cavill back if you're going to go that route, where we don't need to worry about his home life. If he's going to interact with Lois, it's as Superman. He flies to see her. Hey, you see all this shit going on? I gotta go.
yeah,
Love you. You know, like, so we don't necessarily need to see that dynamic again on screen. But if we are going to do it, if you bring Pattinson's Batman in as the Batman, you have to have that Clark and Superman dynamic. So then you have to recast. And like,
right.
I don't like, with all the crap that's been going on, I don't think Henry Cavill goes back. As much as he loves Superman, he says the cape is still hanging in his closet. He looks at it every day. I don't see him coming back.
Yeah, I don't either in the long term.
He's also
I
starting
think
to age out.
yeah, he really is. I think that there are roles out there that he wants that would much like rather suit his style. Like he's had, a phenomenal time in The Witcher. He pulled Ryan Reynolds in like last day of filming, left with the suit, got in his Subaru and drove away, and then like a visual that I would love to see in person. Just of like he has like he's a nerd, man. He's got like the love for the stuff. I liked when they told him, oh, do you like the Marvel, DC, uh or this this Witcher stuff? And he's like Lord of the Rings. Like he's just as much as like into this stuff. I think he's got a love for it. I think there are a lot of characters he does want to play. I mean, he's touched other comic book properties before. He did Man from Uncle, or he did
Which is really good.
yeah, like he jumped in and did Mission Impossible and stuff like that. So
Oh,
there's
he's
stuff
so
out
good.
there. Yeah, I do
He is
laugh
so
at
good.
I do still laugh at the scene where he reloads his arms and gains a pocket in a 5 o'clock shadow and instantaneously. But the I think that there's just bigger things out there for that guy. So the stuff that I've seen him in, he definitely is typecast a lot. I think that there's a bigger acting chopstick to be shown there. Because remember, like Henry Cavill got the Superman job because of Immortals, which was a movie that someone made after seeing 300.
Yeah. What
And
do you
then
want to know?
after seeing Immortals, he gets cast as Superman because I bet you Zack Snyder watched Immortals and
Oh
goes,
yeah,
"Holy
for
shit,
sure.
that guy looks
Yeah.
like Superman."
But you want to know another comic book property he did that a lot of people don't even realize he's in? And Charlie Cox is also in this. Stardust.
I've never seen that. I
But first off,
think I know.
Stardust is a phenomenal film. I love it so much. It's also in my top 5.
Oh, that's
Love
the
Stardust.
Jumanji, but in space, right?
No, no.
Oh,
So Stardust is there's this kid in England. His dad's a poor guy. He works at a market, but he's in love with the rich girl. Uh, I for some reason can't remember who plays the rich girl. However, he's trying to convince her to marry him, and they're having a picnic, but she's going to marry Henry Cavill's character, who is the rich boy in town. And yeah, Denise knows what I'm talking about. Stardust, phenomenal film. They see a shooting star. He's like, "What if I get you that star to be your ring instead of a diamond from Ipswich, which was a town next over?" Problem is, no one's allowed to go. It's a town called Wall, England. No one's allowed to go over this wall. And the wall's only 3 feet tall, but you're not allowed to go over it. He finds his way over, and there's a whole mystical, sorcery-like world. And you've got Michelle Pfeiffer as a witch. You got Robert De Niro as a sky pirate, and they illegally trap lightning and sell it on the black market.
the
He also
hell, I
happens
gotta
to
watch
play.
this.
He also happens to play a. Well, no, okay. If you haven't watched it yet, I don't want to ruin the Robert De Niro surprise. There's a lot of it. Charlie Cox is the hero in the film. Um, Claire Danes plays the star because when the meteor hits, the star is actually a person.
Mm.
You got Mark Strong in it. Uh, Rupert Everett. Ricky Gervais, uh, just this amazing cast. It's a phenomenal film. It's all based on a comic book, and you see a blonde-haired Henry Cavill with a shitty old England mustache playing a douche, and it's hilarious. But like the whole thing, like I highly recommend Stardust. It is a lot of fun. Love that movie to death. Um, it also made me not only did I fall in love with Henry Cavill, I fell in love with Charlie Cox. So when he got cast as Daredevil, I was super excited. But it's also to me one of the Robert De Niro's best roles because it's so out of left field for what he normally does. So it's really good movie, and that's like one of Henry Cavill's first big roles, even though he's not in the film, maybe more than like 5 to 7 minutes total. It's one of his first big Hollywood films. The Neil Gaiman comic. So right there, you already know the writing's phenomenal because Neil Gaiman is one of the best. And this is one of the first times that his properties didn't get screwed over by Hollywood. And this is what got him back into doing stuff, which now, and this is something else DC needs to do and Warner Brothers need to do. Go watch Sandman on Netflix. One of the most comic accurate adaptations I've ever seen.
I have not seen it yet, and I also have never read Sandman. I have the first 2 volumes here, but I have not read them.
I would actually recommend you watch the show first,
mm-hmm.
then go back and read it. And you'll be like, oh wow, they really nailed all of this. So good, because it's one of those things like you can't tell a Marvel fan, hey, don't read the comics because it's going to spoil the movie for you.
Right.
Because they are just inspirations for what the movies are. They are not adaptations. Mm-hmm. Sandman, if you read the comics first, will absolutely spoil the show for you. But the acting is phenomenal in the show. It's very well done. Neil Gaiman watched over that. But also look at Good Omens.
Oh, the phenomenal.
First of all, you have David Tennant and Michael Shannon. Come on.
Yeah. I really hope the second series of that gets made.
It will. That was the whole point of their pandemic podcast, was to keep them kind of like going at each other, and ironically going at each other, and that was so they could keep that kind of alive because they do want to do this again. So I think Neil Gaiman's one of the greatest writers out there, and that was good. So yeah, I highly recommend Stardust. I cannot enough recommend Stardust. So definitely watch that. It's so good. Everybody's phenomenal in that. So, and I think that's a nice lighthearted way to shift the conversation, because we know DC sucks because Warner Brothers sucks. But let's shift into a little bit more positive light here. Stardust is great. What was also great was the I Am Groot series. Holy crap.
Adorable.
It's so good. It's 5-minute shorts, similar to the Pixar shorts. They're just little fun little shorts. Just, when was David Tennant Constantine? When did that happen? Somebody in chat asked if he was still Constantine.
David Tennant's Constantine. Was it maybe in an animated movie? It's been that dude from the CW for a minute now.
Yeah. Denise asked what you have coming up. We'll do a whole span of what everybody's got coming up. Let's talk I Am Groot first. But yeah, it was just this fun series. It had a lot of cute little Easter eggs. It seems that this story, because it is Baby Groot, takes place around the time. Some of it takes place before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Some of it takes place actually kind of during, based on the ships they're using during Galaxy Volume 2. But it was just a fun, cute show. Vin Diesel actually does the voice still.
Yeah.
And in the one episode that we got Rocket Raccoon, Bradley Cooper did the voice for Rocket. So they really, they paid the money to have these guys come in and do this. They probably recorded it on their phone. Who knows? But it was just, oh. So David Tennant plays Constantine in the Sandman audio play.
Oh, okay.
No, he's not Constantine in the show. But go ahead and just give your thoughts on the series.
Well, I Am Groot's adorable. They're real. I mean, you could watch it before you go to work. Like it's just like it serves the same function as the Pixar shorts have served for the last 30 years. And they're just fun. They're just, it is the comedic side of the MCU absolutely, it definitely it feels like part of like some of the problems with some of the other Marvel TV shows, they don't feel quite as part of the universe. This just fits right in. It's James Gunn's got a voice cameo in there. Like there's a lot of influence directly from that. I'm pretty sure that he was involved in some way with some of the stuff, uh, because it you could have put an I Am Groot short in front of every Marvel movie now before it plays, because they're just adorable. They're bite sized. There's not a ton of weight to them or anything like that. They're real funny, and it's just good. It's like a 6 minute like hug, and then you go about your
Yeah,
whatever it is that you're watching. I think that they're great. I'm sure kids love them. But it's something they can do like at any time, that they could put out five more. They can put out another, and then in a couple more months put out another five more. They're just kind of like those things, just like the Pixar shorts. They can go forever.
absolutely. I think honestly, if you're having kind of a bad day, go to Disney Plus on your phone. Just watch one of them. They're literally 5 to 6 minutes long. Just watch one because it will brighten your day up. It really will. They're
Which
just
one? Which one was your favorite?
oh god, I really like. So I have a sentimental favorite and I have a kind of funny favorite. The one, the little people one
Oh yeah,
is my funny favorite, where he finds the little people. Which, by the way, those are real characters from Marvel. They're called
yeah,
grunts. Which, by the way, everybody watch the credits at the end because it'll tell you like no grunts. Every character is an actual creature from Marvel, and it tells you
yeah,
like this creature was not harmed in the making of this, whatever. There's always little cute little taglines at the end, but that one where he finds that little thing and he realizes now and so instead of being Baby Groot, he's now this giant monster compared to them. That one's very funny. Sentimentally, the one where he makes the portrait,
yeah.
and it's the portrait is specifically of adult Groot saving them all at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, he blows a hole in the ship, tears up a bunch of stuff. But there's that moment with him and Rocket that's very cute. Oh, I can't stay mad at you, and then he gets sucked in the hole. Like the whole
Yeah,
thing, it's just so a sentimental favorite. That one made me like almost emotional. I was like, oh, God. But they're all very fun, and so yeah, the one with the little people, they're called Gruns. Um, that one was great. So that's my funny favorite. That's my one I'll probably watch a bunch of times. Sentimental favorite was the one with the family portrait.
yeah. I think the magnum opus was probably the best one.
That's
That
what
was
it
the one
was,
I
magnum
watched
opus. Yeah.
last. Yeah, and then Groot takes a bath was great. I thought that was really funny. The magic mud that gave him an afro, and all the different little styles and stuff he did before the leaves fell off. I thought that was pretty cute and pretty funny. They were all pretty good. They
They're
took a
all
lot of
great.
inspiration from a lot of different things. Like
Yeah.
there's the one with the escaped, like I think it's called like Groot's Pursuit or something. Like that's
Yeah.
like a throwaway from like an old Next Generation episode.
Yeah.
And like there's some stuff in uh some of the other ones that like there's a couple like little Star Trek things where I was like, oh, that reminds me a lot of Star Trek a little bit. It was good. Overall, I think the series is very like it's exactly what it should be, and nothing more, nothing less.
Exactly. It was, and I think just making them 5 minutes, exactly what you're right. It was just cut the fat, exactly what it is. And I know, like, technically the target audience was the younger people. It was meant for. I honestly don't think it was really planned that way. I think it was more like this. We're going to make this for everyone,
Yeah.
and it's not like, oh, I should, this is for kids. Blah blah. I think I got so much joy out of it. It was so much fun. Denise says the one with the bird on the ocean. And having a teenager, it's great when they can get on to him for being on his phone. Yeah, when he's a teenager, like yeah, the teenager Groot was great, but I also like that because that one's like let's be real, that Groot is a little bit of a dick. I mean, he's going through what is essentially puberty, I guess. He's a little
Yeah.
bit, like, when did your sapling drop? Like all that stuff. Um, so I'm glad that these little series focus more on the baby Groot, who, which, and this is something I didn't know that people didn't know this, because James Gunn had already made this clear after the release of Volume Two
I
so
was
many
just
years
going to
ago.
bring this up too because I read that same interaction and
Yeah.
was like, how do people not know this?
So after Volume Two, this is a new Groot. It's not the same Groot from Volume One. That Groot did sacrifice himself. This is kind of, for lack of a better term, his offspring, his progeny. But as that whole species does, they carry almost a hive-minded style of memories. So he still has memories from when he was that Groot. This is a new Groot. And it's become a big thing. People on TikTok are freaking out. I'm all like, I thought we had this conversation literally years ago.
After volume 2 came
After
out.
Volume 2, James Gunn
Yeah.
made it all very clear, but apparently people forgot. I mean, that was so many years.
It's all right. People have forgotten, thought that Dark World was a great movie. So I don't know what the discourse was for that.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Denise says, I love that Thor knows Groot. Yeah, that, Thor took Groot as an elective.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he had the same style of schooling that we did, where he had electives, and he took Groot. I think that's great. I also think that Groot kind of got a little bit lost in these last few films. Like, yeah, obviously his arm is Stormbreaker, but he was getting kind of lost. I think the other great thing about this is that it brings kind of Groot back into the forefront as an important character, even though these are just fun little shorts. It does bring him back. And also, I get it, it's a toy thing. There are literally toys for every single design. In that one where he's in the mud, he keeps having the leaves grow and he tries with different costumes. You can buy every single one of those. And I kind of want to. And I kind of want to just line them up behind me. So I get it's also a toy grab, but that's how Marvel works. I get it. It's Disney run. I understand that. But it brings him back to the forefront. We're going to get the holiday special, and then we're going to get Volume 3, which Volume 3 is the end of this team. This will be the end of this team. Now, some of them will, it's not like they're not all going to die, but we may not see Groot again. There's a chance that him and Rocket go off and retire or whatever, and they go away. So it makes him more prevalent. It brings him kind of back to the forefront. And I do feel he'll have a big play because a lot of what's going to happen in Volume 3 does revolve around Rocket's origin. And again, the Magnum Opus episode showing their love and how Rocket cares for him like a child, I think was important also to bring that back to the forefront. Remember how upset he was at the end of the first one,
or even in Infinity War.
When he got dusted. Yeah, when he got dusted.
Yeah.
So,
because like in Infinity War, they've confirmed that like when Groot's getting dusted and he says I am Groot, he's looking at Rocket and saying like, Dad, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Or like, Dad, I love you, and then he gets like dusted. And then like I remember when I like read like the official like release for that, and then like it made its circuit like around the circuits and stuff, and I was like, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking. James Gunn is nothing if not somebody who pulls on heartstrings. He's really good about that. Denise says, super excited, or she actually said super exited, but it's okay. Super excited, English major, it's fine. Super excited, she's gonna hate me. Super excited for what's coming. Will Mantis have her own series? Depending on how Guardians of the Galaxy 3 plays out, that is something I thought might happen in maybe a phase 6 or 7 or 8. We could get a Mantis spinoff. And part of my reasoning behind that is the Guardians of the Galaxy game. They made Mantis a far more important character. And
they did the Celestial Madonna.
Yes. And so I do feel that, and with the character that I'll never be able to pronounce her name right, Daniela, she played the Ratcatcher 2 in Suicide Squad. She has got a part coming up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that everybody keeps saying is going to be Moondragon, but James Gunn has come out and said no. And I'll tell you one thing, James Gunn has never lied. He may not tell you who she's playing, but if he tells you he's not playing this character, she's not playing that character. So it's not Moondragon, but it will be a very important character. Supposedly, with ties to Mantis. So we could see an arc with Mantis here that builds to something to see her continue on. From what I understand, the character is still wanted. We know that Dax is done, or Drax is done. Batista's made that very clear, so he'll most likely die because he doesn't ever want to play the character again. Um, I think I don't think Star Lord dies. I think that he finds Gamora again. They kind of rekindle and go off. Similar to what I'm thinking that it's going to happen with Rocket, and I'm hoping that Rocket doesn't die, but I think that Mantis will be kind of almost lost, and that can build to a really cool series. And yes, so in the game Guardians of the Galaxy, Denise, Mantis, and this happens in the comics, she is the Celestial Madonna. And in other words, okay, so the best way I can describe the character, at least in the game, and it's similar to the comic books. Do you remember Men in Black 3? And there was a character who could see every possible future? He was watching time at all of time, all possibilities, all at the same time. He was the character that they were trying to protect in Men in Black 3. Denise knows what I'm talking about. She sees time that way. And that she's like, oh, well, this is the future or this is the path where this happens. Oh, if you choose that route. And so to see, and from what Mantis's powers are going to grow, James Gunn's also said that her powers will grow, and she will grow as a character. So she could reach that, maybe not reach Celestial Madonna, but maybe start dipping her toe in it in this film, and then maybe we get a series afterwards. And I think that'd be great. I think that would be really cool to see. Even if they do it animated, but I prefer to see it live action. But I think even if you did it animated.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can explore there because I think we're getting a lot. We're getting a lot in Volume 3. We're getting Adam Warlock. We're getting Half World. So it's, or even if they try to tie Half World into the golden race of people whose names escape me at the moment. Like I think the Sovereign. Yeah, I think you're going to have some sort of mashup of Half World, and then Adam Warlock is sent by the Sovereign after them as the antagonist, and then however things roll out down the line.
Well, we know that the main villain is actually High Evolutionary.
Yeah, which was being played by the guy that played the on Peacemaker, the Marv, or I think his name was, or something.
He was the team leader who turned out to be one of the butterflies.
Butterflies, yeah. So you have like the High Evolutionary is your bad guy. You have the Angle left over from Volume 2 with Adam Warlock, and then you have the Half World. I think will be addressed in it at some point, and everyone will like you said, like probably everyone will splinter off or go off in the sunset or die, and it leaves Mantis in a kind of like that's going to be the kind of heart and soul of everything that kind of moves on, whatever the next iteration is. Remember, the original team of the Guardians of the Galaxy is out there now too, with Stallone and all those people that had their like cameos. But like James Gunn has teased wanting to do stuff with those characters again. At the same time, you have the young woman that played Ratcatcher, and you also have the woman that played Borat's daughter in the last Borat movie. She's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in an undisclosed role, who might also be Moondragon, but he's said that Ratcatcher is not Moondragon, but he hasn't said that this person is Moondragon, and no one has really.
He's also said that he's also never said that Moondragon's not in the film.
Right. So you could have a double.
He doesn't ever give anything away, but he doesn't ever lie either.
You're right. So
nobody's actually asked him.
Yeah, a lot going on and what they can play with. I mean, especially after the success of the game, which is very heavily influenced by his movies. So it's like that game was a happy marriage of the comic book lore and the movies.
But I love it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really wish that I had gotten more support so we can get more of it, but it is what it is.
It just came off the failure of Avengers, but I actually like Avengers too. But
yeah, but I think that the doors for Volume 3 are so large, and the amount of things they can do, and then things that can spin off of that. You can end a lot of these people's stories. Like, you don't have to kill people. I think like Infinity or Endgame proved that you only killed the guy that started the first 10 years, and then everyone else survived and is taking on different roles. Thor had, Love and Thunders has came and gone, and has, had the kind of mixed reception it has, but it's given him something to do. He's got Love to do everything with. You have, the Hulk is going to mentor She-Hulk. You have, and then, Cap's in time living the life that he should have had the entire time. So you have like characters that are able to move on and not necessarily die, without, of course, like real world implications having that happen. But it's, you can send these characters off and it make perfect sense. You don't have to have an end game level team up every end of phase. You can save that for every 10 years. I think a lot of those people that have played, I think eventually at some point we'll see everybody again. Whether that's Secret Wars or it's in something else, there's still so many possibilities. The multiverse is still going on. I've always wanted there to be on screen. Riri Williams is a perfect character they can do this with, where because the multiverse is a thing, say really Riri Williams winds up using technology to now go to the different, parts of the multiverse, and ends up in something that doesn't involve magic. And then she gets teleported to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then you see the silhouette, you see the cloak of levitation, and you turn around, it's Tony Stark.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And that's been done numerous times in the comic books, and it's like you can play around with all that type of stuff. And there's the possibilities of everything right now are endless. I know, like, definitely before Multiverse of Madness come out, you and I were like going back and forth in Twitter of like, this could happen, that could happen, and then like at like halfway through the conversation, we're like, anything can happen. We're honestly so like caught up. Like there's so much possibility.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Speaking of She-Hulk, which you kind of touched on there for a second, that does start next week.
Yes.
So any Thursday that you're available, whenever these episodes are playing out, I know Kel would love to have you on as well. So you let me know, and we'll have you on, and we'll do a 3-way. It'll be great. That sounded awful. That's not what I meant, or maybe it is what I meant.
Too
I don't
much of the
know.
boys.
Whatever. Um, however you dill your pickle. Yeah, no, I think that we're gonna see a lot in She-Hulk. We're gonna get some answers on Hulk's future there. We're gonna, Thor. Chris Helmsworth has said he'd play Thor for another 10 years if they let him. And the fact that, Love was played by his actual daughter. It's Chris Helmsworth's actual daughter.
Oh, I didn't
Love.
know that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Love is actually his daughter. I think that's great. And his son played the young Thor running through the forest. That's his son.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was great. So the fact that he's now made a family thing as well, I think we'll get more Thor. But you're right, a lot of you don't have to kill off characters to bring them on. I want to address. Denise asked, "What about Isla Fisher? Do you think she would be great?" I think Isla Fisher would fit into the Marvel universe perfectly. And the fact that we're going to be getting so many other characters, the mutants are just getting that seed's just getting planted. Now I don't think we'll actually see them until Phase 7. But she could play. And honestly, if they don't go John Krasinski and Emily Blunt for Reed and Sue Storm, Isla Fisher would be a fantastic Sue Storm. She'd be a wonderful Sue Storm. I've never seen her blonde that I can remember, but I think she could pull it off. I think she'll be fine. But again, there's so many other characters she could play, and Marvel's catalog is so massive, and they obviously have proven they don't mind bringing in the most obscure characters. I think she'd also play a great villain, like a She-Hulk season 2 villain or something. Like, she would fit into that world, I think, very well as well. Is there anywhere you can go to send votes for roles? Kind of. Twitter. That's how John Krasinski got into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in the first place. Sam Raimi has come out and said that Kevin Feige got him in to do that cameo strictly as fan service. Now, obviously, that opens the door for the talks for him to play the role long term, but there's no guarantee. And that's the great thing about a multiverse as well. So not only do we have an endless catalog of characters to choose from, but then you also have multiversal versions of said characters that don't have to look like the other character. So I'm not in that superhero fatigue point. I know some people might be, but I think that Marvel has the ability to go on for an incredibly long time with endless possibilities. And the more and more big name people we see coming into roles like this, the more people that we want to see in roles will get roles like Fisher. I think she'd be a phenomenal choice for Marvel. On the flip side of that, not to go back to DC too much, I don't know if she would fit into DC as well. She is a great dramatic actress, but unless DC does take a shift in the way they tell stories, I don't think she'd currently fit into what they currently do. But in
You know,
Marvel, yeah, she's there.
it's funny that you bring up like the 10 years thing, right? So like Marvel's has had their 10-year plan, and now they have their next 10-year plan, right? And you talked about how before Warner Brothers very publicly said the Avengers ensemble cast movie will not work. It will not make money. It will tank the franchise. Marvel will be done. In the same investors board meeting thing they had that leaked like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, where they said that we're resetting everything. Momoa is staying. Miller was obviously tentative, and then Ben Affleck coming back. They also made the same claim that the reason why they're doing their 10-year plan now is that they do not believe that Marvel is sustainable for another 10 years. They think that Marvel will fizzle out and either start heading into a reboot where we're going to get another Steve Rogers Captain America movie where Steve Rogers is played by somebody else in the same or adjacent universe. And that the 20 years of Marvel or the 15 years of Marvel until this change has to come, they will never see that their whole vision. So right now, WB and Discovery most likely, as the parent company, is making the same kind of probably mistake in that they did by saying that they will not be successful. I will be 35 years old the day not the day, but the year that Secret Wars is released. I know I'm going to be in the theater for that.
Hmm.
Like I know that movie is going to be made. I know that there isn't going to be a big mashup there. The movies are good. They're very formulaic, but they are able to hit everyone, and they do these bigger event movies, and they're doing genre films. They're finding ways to stay relevant, where they're not copying each other and moving in similar directions with every franchise that they've had. Like if you look at Iron Man, Iron Man 2, and Iron Man 3, you have a good movie. You have everything about the first movie that was good dialed to a million, and you have a very different movie. So they learned from that. You know, the first Avenger is Raiders. It's Raiders. That like at its heart and soul is Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the same
Yep.
movie. And then you turn around and you have an Oliver Stone political thriller as your second movie, because you don't want to do another Raiders, because like Temple of Doom is great, but it's not Raiders. And then your third movie is a larger ensemble because you needed an Avengers 2.0 or 2.5
Yeah.
before things really kicked off into where everything was going. And all the movies that they've had trilogies for, they have not tried to really mimic what happened beforehand. No movie is exactly like the one that came before it, with the exception of Iron Man, Iron Man 2, because Iron Man 2 gets shit on for that.
Yeah.
So it's they've really figured out a way to stay relevant by doing the genre films and doing things differently. And if they continue to do that and then have these giant ensembles every 5-10 years with bigger villains and bigger whatever, I think that you're in it for the long haul at that point. Because between Kang is wrapping up his, at least this iteration of Kang's, Kang the Conqueror is the bad guy for Quantumania. And then I think you're going to have Kang bounce in and out as different iterations of Kang. So we'll see Rama Tut, we'll see all that between that and Avengers Kang Dynasty, which everyone was like, okay, so it's just going to be Avengers. They're not going to do new Avengers. I thought they were going to do new Avengers to distinguish it from it, but either way, fine. And then you have Kang Dynasty to Secret War, where I think what not a lot of people, we'll see what happens, but I firmly believe, because there should be three Avengers, there should be a Kang Dynasty, another Avengers film in the timeline, and then Secret Wars. I think Thunderbolts is actually the Age of Ultron of these
Probably,
movies,
probably.
to where you think Avengers, this would be Avengers like 6 at that point, would you're like, okay, cool, and then Thunderbolts is really Dark Reign, is essentially
Yeah,
Dark Reign. So you have that, you lump in the Thunderbolts in with Dark Reign for a movie, from a movie standpoint, makes all the sense in the world. That takes that slot, and then the dismantling of the Dark Reign storyline will then lead you into Infinity War, or Secret Wars rather, where okay, now I mean the rumor has been Doom for a minute now. I mean, Wakanda Forever comes out in 2 months, and or 3 months rather, and we'll see whether or not the Doom stuff is legit.
yeah,
If Doom is your looming threat, you have a lot of play. You have Kang till Kang Dynasty. You have the Thunderbolts being the first, rather than Doom being the first really like homegrown like kind of threat that they'd have, because everything is being dismantled. Kind of the same way with Hydra, being Shield the whole time. And then Secret Wars is Doom's plan to, as someone from Earth, take over all of existence. And in the same time, you have in the background Eternals.
yep,
So at the end of Secret Wars, if it goes the way and Doom is involved in it, which is it could be anything, because they all they need is the name and the concept. It doesn't have to be Doom. If you have something like Eternals going on in the background, and you have introduced the Fantastic Four, the story of, or the way that they had the emergence in Eternals opens the door for Galactus's origin,
hmm
like wide open. It is so easy to say Galen was on his planet. A celestial was supposed to emerge. He found out about it. He tried to stop it. Wound up, you do the cosmic egg, but have it be this emergence thing, and then boom, you have Galactus. And then if you're going to end the MCU, Galactus is probably the way that you're going to do it, based on who you've already thrown out there against them. And then you have like the longest running franchise of all time, and probably will make money on top of money and forever, until the culture changes to where like, oh, those movies actually kind of sucked, you know?
yeah. But well, the other thing is, I can think that Warner Brothers isn't even thinking about is the fact that Marvel just got back all the Fox characters. Like, oh, they're gonna run dry. We're just getting a Fantastic Four film, Phase 6. We've still got
Mm-hmm.
the mutants coming. Big flagpole characters. But they've also proven that they can make B, C, and D list characters mean something and carry franchises. So yeah, I think that Warner Brothers is definitely again might be shooting themselves in the foot.
Underestimating their competition.
Underestimating their
Yeah.
competition. And Denise said he wants 10% if Isla Fisher is cast. He's all about that bag. I think that it's just business. Old school is trying to be touched in a way to appease everyone new and or old. Yeah, I think that. Well, I think it's something that Marvel has gotten right. Even the people who like, oh, that's not how this character was. Like all the discourse over Mandalorian and all that stuff, or not Mandalorian. Uh, Iron Man 3.
Yeah, Iron Man 3, like you're talking about how like it doesn't quite like the Mandarin.
Mandarin. Thank you,
Yeah.
God. My mind would not get off Mandalorian. It's like I know it started with Mand, and I'm like, get off of that. Yeah. So even when Marvel stumbles, they find a way to fix it. And I think that the biggest difference here is that they don't hit the panic button when they stumble. Warner Brothers hits the panic button when they feel a sneeze coming on. Like it's just like they
Yeah.
panic immediately. And they do that because they put their foot in their mouths with stuff like this, like the whole Avengers will never work. We'll never do a Justice League. Oh shit, that was highly successful. We got to play catch up. And I think that now, like, yes, they have a 10-year plan, but if they're going off the thought that, well, we're going to do a 10-year plan because Marvel's going to fade away, what are you doing?
Right.
Kevin Feige has found like an infinite money glitch in a video game somehow. And it's just that because he cares and he's willing to put care and find the right people who care into everything. And like I said, they have been able to use B, C, and D list characters to make entire franchises. Iron Man wasn't an A list character by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
There's a reason that Marvel's still holding the rights to him because nobody wanted him.
Right.
I mean, the man's one of his biggest runs was on the West Coast Avengers, a joke version of the Avengers. Like he's had a couple major storylines before 2008, like the Demon in a Bottle story, the Extremis stuff. It's where they tried like Ike Perlmutter tried to push him because they didn't have the rights to Fantastic Four, they didn't have the rights to X-Men. He tried to push those out of the comics, tried to push these characters, but Iron Man was at the very and to be very gracious, a B-list character, but I would say C or D-list character for most of his run. Yes, he had a long-standing run, but so did a lot of other characters.
Yeah, there wasn't really, I mean, other than like Demon in the Bottle, Armor Wars, nothing really big came out of Iron Man. None of the stories that have been adapted into the movies, not adapted but inspired by, have really come from anything other than something that came out of Armor Wars, like the second Iron Man movie. There's a lot of Iron Wars in there, and then Demon in the Bottle in the third one.
Yeah, there's Demon in a Bottle also teased in the second one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like
they were having to recycle stories. Yeah, they were literally having to recycle stories.
Or pick and choose what they were going to use from those stories, and because there isn't that much material, like Extremis. You're gonna do well when you bring in someone like Warren Ellis most of the time, but with with Extremis, like Extremis has every reason not to be as celebrated as it is. I think it was just it was a spotlight for a character who needed it.
Yeah,
and the same thing can be said about like anything like Donny Cates has touched, with the exception of Hulk for some reason. You're getting you have turned Venom into a full-fledged hero. You had a phenomenal run on Guardians of the Galaxy, phenomenal run, all the Cosmic Ghost Rider stuff, that characters that were kind of like not being really used or not being fleshed out because they were either replaced due to the fact that another studio had the right or had the film rights to the character. That's why we get characters like Robbie Reyes and stuff for Ghost Rider, is because they don't want to use Johnny Blaze because there's a Nicolas Cage movie coming out in 2 months, and they don't want Sony to make money. They want Disney to make money. So, okay, now we have a new Ghost Rider. That's why I think like if Ghost Rider enters the MCU, you might as well just do Danny Ketch at this point, because Johnny Blaze is synonymous with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but I think that Johnny Cage, there's a Johnny Blaze poster in She-Hulk.
So I'm waiting until the show comes out, because someone has said that they cleaned the image and it's not quite Johnny Blaze. It's something like it, but it's not. So until it comes out, I'll be on the fence about it. It probably is Johnny Blaze and just someone on Twitter saying shit, but it's I will like wait until it is. I honestly, I had my pitch for Ghost Rider was a Disney Plus show before a movie where we see Danny Ketch get the reins from Johnny Blaze, and then at the end of the show you find out that it was never Johnny Blaze to begin with, it was Vengeance. And then in my perfect world, Darcy Montgomery from Stranger Things plays Danny Ketch and Henry Rollins plays Johnny Blaze. And then which it's like Henry Rollins is strictly because of the music that I listen to, and not the fact that he's a good actor, because he's not. But it's like,
I think he is. I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. Like I've seen him in certain roles.
Sons of Anarchy, I think, was like, I mean, I liked He Never Died. A lot of people shit on that movie too, but like those are like bright spots, and otherwise like he plays the same thing in everything. Like it's that there's not very much.
Okay, he does. Yeah, you're right.
But if it's something that's supposed to be, Johnny Blaze was this, and because of something with Mephisto, Johnny Blaze is missing or in hell or whatever, and that Vengeance actually was the person that trained, winds up being the person that meant, because that's what they do with Marvel. Your mentor is your bad guy. So if you have, it wasn't really Johnny Blaze, it was Vengeance, and Vengeance is played by someone else. If Mickey Rourke wasn't a fucking already used, he'd be great for Vengeance, just to not talk and just be there ugly.
Yeah.
Um, and then you'd have to find something there from there and keep going. It all works, but it's really what they want to do. Is it going to be Robbie Reyes? If it's Johnny Blaze, great, but you gotta wash off Nick Cage from that.
Yeah, I agree. Denise was actually asking if CPG had a choice, what would he see different without any restrictions? But then you just answered it with with a Ghost Rider storyline, and I agree. Um, I've never been a Robbie Reyes fan. I think maybe because I am so old school with my comics, and I've been a big Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze. I remember when Johnny Blaze lost Ghost Rider, but was still had powers. He had that run where he was just Johnny Blaze. I've always been a big motorcycle guy. I'm not a big fan of the car thing.
Yeah, it's out of left field. I like
Yeah,
the Robbie Reyes stuff. I think legitimately happened because they didn't want to push Johnny Blaze, and then it was a unique take on the idea that uh you are you're a Ghost Rider, but you're not a Spirit of Vengeance because he was possessed by a demon. I thought
yeah,
that was cool until they just wound up folding him into being another Spirit of Vengeance because they didn't. It was either not received well or they didn't know where to go with it. A
yeah,
lot of cool visuals. I just
yeah.
it wasn't Ghost Rider, like the whole part of Ghost Rider is the motorcycle. It's either a horse or a motorcycle.
Yeah, and I mean, like the fact that now that Robbie Reyes is like apparently the all spirit or whatever, like the all whatever
Yeah,
he can control anything that's motorized.
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's
yeah.
just not
It's
for
it's
me.
it's just different.
It's not for me. But you know what? There's a lot of people that do like Robbie Reyes and they want to see Robbie Reyes again. But I think like unless they bring back the actor from Agents of Shield, which I don't think they will, kind of can't go the Robbie Reyes route because like we got Daredevil Born Again coming. But Charlie Cox has made it very clear that this is not the Netflix Daredevil.
Right.
It is this universe's version. The Marvel 6 or the MCU 616. It is that version, and that's why when he tweeted about when the news got out that he signed to be back before the show was ever announced, he said that this will be, I love what we did at Netflix, but this will be a new interpretation. It's like he'll be born again, and he put it in quotation marks.
Right.
And a lot of people thought he was just teasing the born again run from Daredevil. Turned out in reality he was teasing the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
But that's like it's one of those things, and it's a huge discussion about the whole canon. Is Agents of Shield canon? Is Netflix canon? All that stuff. Multiverse is not equal canon. So if you're going to do Ghost Rider and you're going to do Robbie Reyes, I think that people would be upset if you don't bring back the same actor. But they're not going to. They're really distancing themselves from Agents of Shield. They're not doing anything with Agents of Shield. Like there was that whole thing where Simu Liu met up with Daisy Johnson, the actress Chloe Bennett, who plays Daisy Johnson, aka Quake. And he's like, here's a picture of the first Asian superhero in Marvel, and me, Shang-Chi. Like people are like, oh, she's coming back. She's coming back. She's not coming back. She's not signed anything. She's not doing anything. And that was just them and playing around.
I have heard that she's rumored for Secret Invasion, but in a very small, almost cameo like role. So if these shows that are coming are going to tease the bigger mutant thing, and we're not getting Inhumans in the MCU 616 for the obvious reasons, then you can use the library of Inhuman characters, but make them mutants. So
Mhm.
you could have her come back and be Quake, but she won't be an Inhuman. She'll be a mutant, which will piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, she won't be the Agents of Shield version
Right.
because it's
And it
not canon.
firmly, I think it firmly establishes that the Inhumans TV show, which we all knew as soon as it ended was not canon, and the Agents of Shield show is not canon, and then the Netflix stuff, as great as it is, the continuations, not continuations in the right word, but the revival of those characters with their own shows. I believe that Jessica Jones will have a revival at Disney Plus, and I believe that Heroes for Hire will also. they'll just combine the two characters into one show, and they won't have a Luke Cage season 3 or whatever. It'll be Heroes for
Yeah.
Hire, and you can bring back everyone except for Finn Jones because but
No.
it's
No.
the when you bring these revivals back and all that stuff, you're definitely establishing that something very similar happened, but it's still not the same universe. It decanonizes those stories, but it leaves the door open for David Tennant to come back. It brings like anyone who died in any of those series
His
could very
Purple
well come
Man.
back.
First, it's just David Tennant. David Tennant's amazing. His
Yeah.
Purple Man was so terrifying and so good.
Yeah, it was fucking phenomenal.
Loved him in that. He was so good. Love Jessica Jones season 1. It is phenomenal. So yeah, there's so much about to happen. We've got She-Hulk coming up. Like I said, any week that you're free, you let me know, and I'll have you on. Kel says still have nightmares of his Purple Man. Yeah, it was terrifying, and he played it so well. And yeah, so we got She-Hulk coming up. Let me know when you want to come back in. And I don't know if you've picked up any comic books lately, but we usually end the show with a little bit of what you're reading. So, because I know that this is very last minute for you, so you may not be prepared, but I'll go ahead. I've actually got quite a few books that I picked up this past week. So I'll go through mine. I'm going to start with a new book I picked up. I picked up mainly for this cover. This is Harley Quinn number 18. Paying homage to the original Batman. Even got like where it looks like it's worn out and stuff. That's done on purpose and whatnot. It was weird because I'm jumping in the middle of the series, and now I got to go back and figure out what's all going on because it was confusing jumping in issue 18. But I really liked the cover, so I wanted to get it. I also will say there is something a little like the new comic books. The covers are actually they're like a much thicker cardstock now, and the pages are very slick. It feels very different than like old comic books. You can definitely tell like they're colored on a computer and like you can tell like it's very like modernized. It's a little weird feeling. And I say that because everything else I picked up much older. So I've already shown this one. It was the 1988 golden anniversary issue, the 50th anniversary of Superman. Action Comics. This was issue 600. And of course there it goes. My camera froze again. Stop freezing. There we go. So it was issue 600. There's a lot of great stories in here. There is a weird romance story with Wonder Woman. But that whole thing is there I believe on Apocalypse. Darkseid's actually controlling both of them. It's a very weird thing. And they have a very like awkward when they get back to Earth, like, hey, so about what happened. That was interesting. But that's still, it's like very, very 80s, very George Perez. I loved every second of it. This was a series I remember from the late 80s, early 90s. Doctor Strange, his first new, like he had been gone for a while. My camera keep freezing. He had been gone. Oh, hold on a second. Stupid camera. Ugh. Oh, it's Zoom. Zoom's being a butthead. Just a second, guys. There we go. So as I'm frozen with the dumbest look on my face. Let me switch cameras real quick. Hold on. I'll pop that out. Reset it. Switch back. And voila. But yeah, so this was a kind of a Doctor Strange didn't have a solo run for a while. In the I think it was like early 80s. His book got canceled. This was bringing him back, but this one's very interesting because through most of this book, he was actually dead. Which recently in the comics they did a run where he died as well. So he's dead through most of this, but his astral form is going around trying to figure out what happened. And turns out that Dormammu takes his place as the Sorcerer Supreme, takes his body. And so it's a very interesting story. I'm gonna get the. Luckily, my comic book shop has the whole run of this run, so I'm gonna pick them up. That was really good. This one is just I picked it up. There's so much sentimental value here.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had all 4 issues. The comic book shop I go to, he's getting the rest of them in for me. I remember buying this as a kid. I loved Nightcrawler. This whole story is about him getting bamfed to a different dimension, and there's space pirates, and it's hilarious and campy and awesome, and I love it. And I've already showed this one is the Kevin Smith run with Spider-Man and Black Cat. Another great book series. I bought this cover. I just want to get this iconic cover, but I've actually ordered the trade paperback of this for the whole set. Then I have 3 other very iconic Spider-Man books. My camera froze again. I need to show off comic books, you son of a. For some reason, Zoom's having issues. We're almost done here, people. Just hang out. Just give me a second. We'll get there. I promise. It'll be good. Trust me, these last 3 comic books are worth it. Swap this one more time. I will be emailing Zoom after this.
Get corporate on the phone.
Yes, you all need to fix this crap. So this is one. This was during Todd McFarlane's run on Spider-Man. It's the Sideways issue with X-Force, and it's all about fighting Juggernaut. The whole issue is landscape style. It's a fantastic story, though. Always my 3 favorite artists for Spider-Man that are not Steve Ditko have always been Alex Ross, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane. And so this is just a really cool one to have. It's just there was a couple other books that came out this same month of different comics that were landscape as well. X-Men did one. There was a couple others. This one is the first appearance of Spider-Hulk.
Oh, damn.
In one of the weirdest nonsensical stories I've ever read. But it's an iconic. The Spider-Hulk doesn't show up again until this recent run in Immortal Hulk. And it was really just teased. It wasn't the actual, but this is actually like the episode starts, or the issue starts off with him fighting the Hulk because the Hulk's going weird. And it turns out he's going weird because he was zapped by this machine, and Spider-Man then gets zapped by, he becomes Spider-Hulk. But that quickly gets fixed by the end of the episode, and it's over. So it's a one and done, but it was a cool thing. Now, this last one is not only one of the most iconic Spider-Man covers of all time, but just one of the most iconic comic book covers of all time.
Oh, wow.
One of the first ever drawings I did of a comic book was I recreated this cover when I was like 10 years old. Absolutely amazing. But what I didn't remember, having not read it in so long, the story in here is also vastly important. Spider-Man's actually barely in the episode. Most of this issue is about Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson dealing with their relationship. And so the underlying story is there's this gigantic homeless person kidnapping other homeless people and taking them into the sewers. Spider-Man, realizing that his suit is too bright to go into the sewers and not be a target, feels he needs to go back to his black suit just to go into the sewers. Mary Jane Watson is very upset about this because this is just after all the trauma that Venom had caused them. So most of this issue is talking about their relationship, the dynamic between the two, trying to he's like, look, I understand how you feel. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I have to do this. I have to save people. Even though they're homeless, they still count. And we get the realization out of Mary Jane. She's like, look, I knew what I signed up for when I married you. I knew you were Spider-Man. I knew that part of it. I don't want to see the suit because of the trauma. But the main issue I'm having is not that I'm afraid you're not going to come home, or I'm not that I'm afraid that I'm going to get hurt. I feel helpless. I can't help you. That's my actual problem. I have to sit here and watch you do all this and save all these people, and I can't help you. And so it was this big emotional moment for their relationship, which unfortunately years later in the One More Day storyline gets completely wiped out by a terrible story.
Yeah,
But
Zada.
so we not only get one of the most iconic comic book covers of all time, we also get a phenomenal story on their relationship and the human side of Peter and Mary Jane. And as it turns out at the end of the thing, that the guy who's kidnapping the homeless people, he's kidnapping them for Morbius. So this is also the return of Morbius to Spider-Man comics. So the comic book guy's also, this is actually a part 1 of 2. He's getting me the issue 14 of this so that I have the second half of this story as well. So I'll probably be picking that up tomorrow. Hopefully they'll be in tomorrow. But Cal said he found that one in a Falling comic at the Goodwill. And Denise wants to know which one of those was your favorite, or any
I
of these
think
that you remember.
I think the sideways issue. I remember having the X-Men one. And I know that I probably had the Spider-Man one. I don't know if I still have them. They're probably in a box somewhere. But I remember that being very unique at the time, especially because that art style was so popular. Because there were, even though Liefeld was the forefront with, well, I mean, it was Jim Lee, but like Liefeld was in the mix for that too. They did find very creative ways to use comic book panels to tell stories. Having fights extend outside of the panels, having things take place in some books in the white of the panels and stuff. So like that really kind of like jogged my memory. I actually might go look for those, and if I don't have them, try to get them. Um, McFarlane's run of Spider-Man is fantastic and something I think everyone should read for sure. I was much more, I think, during that time reading a lot more Marvel than DC. DC, I was watching a lot of the cartoons and stuff because I was a kid. But yeah, I think a lot of good memories, especially that Nightcrawler. I have not seen that comic cover in years, so it's cool to
It
see that you found one out in the wild. That's pretty
it
cool.
made my heart glow, and he said that he's got the other ones for me. He just
Good,
hadn't
that's
he
cool.
hadn't priced them yet. He got a huge, like a couple different long boxes from this lady's garage. He's also got a lot of the Moon Knight run from that time, and a lot of other. He's got the entire Executioner song series with the cards. Remember
Nice.
the cards that came with them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's got them. They're like they were never open, so they're there. There's a lot of cool stuff that I've got to pick up. So I'm gonna be diving a lot back into the older stuff as well. Trying to get some new stuff every now and then, but like there's so much of this classic stuff from the 80s and 90s that's so good. And like I said, with this one and like all of Todd McFarlane's run before going to Image, watching what they did and why they felt confident enough to go off and do their own company is proof.
Yeah.
And how good, like that shows you how good these books were. So I'm super excited. I've got a comic book convention coming up October 8th, Citrus County Comics, Toys, and Anime Festival. I've got an artist table there. I do a lot of sketch covers. After seeing this again, I have to recreate it. So this will probably be, if I don't do this as a sketch cover, it will be one of my prints, my 11 by 14 prints. I will recreate this because it is one of my favorites. Like I said, of this time period, it was either Todd McFarlane or Eric Larson. Their runs on Spider-Man are phenomenal. And then I think, of course, anything that Alex Ross does is phenomenal. I mean, I literally have a 10-foot by 6-foot vinyl panel on my wall of Alex Ross's Avengers. I mean, I don't know if I hope it doesn't freak out. I literally have this giant panel on my wall.
Oh, that's cool. Holy shit.
Yeah. I love Alex. I think Alex Ross is the greatest comic book artist of all time, but he's also a very unique, a very distinct style. Yeah. Whereas like Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson are very much more exaggerated, campy superhero. Alex Ross is much more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to this. This will be a lot of fun. Like I said, this book was really weird, but it's still really cool to have the Spider Hulk. Because before the Immortal Hulk, where they did a kind of weird thing, like this was the one and only ever time. Cost me $2.
Yeah,
this is great.
Oh
great.
yeah.
Yeah, these are were all just fantastic.
There's definitely the nuance of like the mid like I mean everything for I'd say for about the 80s back where like things happen for no reason and they're just as simple as like someone shot the Hulk with this ray and then they shot Spider-Man and now we have a Spider Hulk. It's like nothing is that simple anymore, or if it
And it's
is, it's
solved
like
in one issue.
yeah. Yeah, if it is done that simply, there's an overarching thing that makes it more complicated, you know. So that's pretty cool. I'm not reading any modern stuff. I usually wait till trades just because I don't have a reliable shop near me anymore. Uh, I I reread Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run pretty frequently because it is my favorite run of anything.
It is really good.
From
Yeah.
Rebirth all the way to Blackest Night, Brightest Day, it all falls apart unfortunately. But the Sinestro Corps War, the Rage of the Red Lanterns, even the core relaunch that came after Rebirth is just so damn good. And he really surrounded himself. Jeff Johns was able to surround himself with a lot of talented writers and artists. Pete Tomasi and Pat Gleason belong together forever, working on everything. They are both very very good together, especially for core during Blackest Night. And then Jeff Johns and Ivan Reyes are a match made in heaven. You have to put up with Ethan Van Shriver's art, which back then was good, not great. The person Ethan Von Trier is just terrible. But the the artist was what grabbed me for that at first because I liked his kind of approach, and then like Ivan Reyes comes along, and I'm just like, oh god, this is so good.
Kel just
I
said
did
he's
have
starting to
this
read.
cool. Well, let me grab this. It's actually just like right offhand because this is
Okay, go
actually
ahead.
pretty cool.
All right. By the way, I do want to say thank you to everybody for sticking around. I know we run longer than we normally do, but obviously I can't just. It's CPG, man. He's awesome.
So for my birth or for Christmas, my girlfriend and I, like I mentioned at the beginning, are really big fans of Ghost, which is a band from Sweden. And their whole thing is that they're like satanic ABBA. People like think they're like this hardcore death metal band because of what their imagery is, but they just sound like ABBA. It's like Scooby Doo music. And it's all kind of satirical, satanic stuff, which is like kind of the type of Satanist that I am. But anyway, the DC Universe during death metal did a cover with Papa Emeritus on it that was done in conjunction with Ghost, and she actually got me the variant cover,
Oh,
which is
nice.
got Papa on it with the Batman Who Laughs and the Robins and stuff, and it's entirely in German, which is fantastic. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, because that was the one she was able to get. So everything in here is in German. This was really cool. It sits in my room with all my other memorabilia and stuff, and we've got an entire wall of Ghost memorabilia in our kitchen. Which I like caught when I started doing TikTok again. That's like half the comments on the video were like, "You have a lot of Ghost stuff," and I was like, "It's just my kitchen." uh, but yeah, no, that's I yeah, the last modern thing I read was metal and death metal, just because the I have to hunt them down because I definitely do want them since we have a record player now, but I want the vinyl records that they did with Mastodon did a song that was really really good on that soundtrack.
really?
Huge fan of them too. But
I
yeah,
got to see them live. They're awesome.
yeah, I'm seeing them in September. They're opening for Ghost in Peoria, Illinois, and then we're going to go 2 days later to see them in Green Bay also. So I'm super psyched for that. But yeah, just that comic cover. I'm rereading Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern pretty often. And every now and again, I jump into something new. I'll probably wind up reading Sandman after I start watching the show.
Yeah, you'll watch. You'll want to for sure. But like I said, watch the show first. 'Cause it's okay to get spoilers for a comic book. It's not the same like if you have spoilers for the show. It feels different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so uh CPG, thank you so much for stepping in today. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, your invite, that door is always open for you for not only this one, but also Wrestling with Toxicity on Tuesday nights. Um She-Hulk coming up. I definitely want to get your take on some of those. So whenever you're free for that, you let me know. I know Kel will be all up on board having you along with us. It'll be a great time. So everybody who hung out, I know, like I said, we went a little bit long than we normally do, but it's CPG, man. I'm not gonna squander this at all. Thank you everybody so much for hanging out. Thank you for everybody in the comments. You guys were amazing. And we will see you guys next week.